The throne that chose wrong, when the invisible became unstoppable. Before we begin, I need to ask you something. What would you do if destiny chose you, but everyone around you swore it was a mistake? If you want to know how one forbidden touch changed everything, stay until the end. And hey, drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. Let's see how far this story reaches. The wolf throne had stood for 300 years, and in all that time it had never chosen wrong, until tonight. Elara Vance pressed herself against the cold stone wall of the great hall, her fingers gripping the silver tray so hard her knuckles went white. Around her the celebration roared, nobles in silk and fur, warriors bearing scars like medals, women dripping in jewels that probably cost more than her entire bloodline had ever earned. The air smelled of roasted meat, expensive wine, and something else. Something animal, power. She'd learned early that power had a smell, like iron and smoke, and the moment before a storm breaks. "More wine!" A lord's voice cut through the noise, sharp and entitled. Elara moved before thinking, the way servants were trained to move, quick, quiet, invisible. She'd been a shadow in this castle since she was 8 years old, since her mother died and left her with nothing but a name and a pair of too honest eyes that got her in trouble more often than not. The throne room of Nightfall Keep wasn't just a room. It was a statement. Massive stone pillars carved with wolves mid-hunt. Banners bearing the black wolf sigil of House Nightfall. And at the center of it all, raised on a platform of ancient stone that predated the castle itself, sat the throne. It wasn't made of metal or wood. It was bone. Wolf bone. Fused and shaped by magic so old no one remembered who'd forged it. White as death. Sharp as truth. And currently empty. Alpha King Darien Nightfall was somewhere in the crowd, probably tolerating the endless parade of nobles trying to marry off their daughters. Elara had seen him exactly 3 times in the 10 years she'd worked here. Each time she'd made sure he didn't see her. That was the first rule of survival in this place. Don't be noticed. She wove through the crowd, refilling glasses, dodging grabbing hands. Some lords thought servant girls came with the wine, and trying very hard not to think about the fact that her feet were killing her. The celebration was for some treaty, some alliance. She didn't know the details. Servants didn't need to know details. Pathetic. The word came from her left. Elara didn't need to look to know who'd said it. Lady Seraphine Blackmore stood with 3 other noble girls, all of them dressed like they'd swallowed the treasury. Seraphine's dress was midnight blue, cut low enough to be strategic, high enough to be respectable. Her black hair fell in perfect waves. Her smile was all teeth. She was also the woman everyone expected to become Luna, the king's mate, the kingdom's queen. "Did you see her scurrying?" Seraphine's voice carried just far enough to be heard, but not far enough to be obvious, like a rat in a grain store. Her friends laughed. That particular kind of laugh that women like them had perfected, musical and cutting at the same time. Elara kept walking. Engagement was death. She'd learned that too. But Seraphine wasn't done. "I heard she sleeps in the scullery, with the dogs." "At least the dogs have bloodlines," one of the others added. More laughter. Elara's jaw tightened. Her mother used to say anger was expensive. Servants couldn't afford it. So she swallowed it down like she swallowed everything else. The exhaustion, the hunger on days when there wasn't enough food to go around, the humiliation of being less than nothing in a world that ran on blood and breeding. She was almost to the kitchen door when it happened. Lord Garrett Thornfield, drunk, massive, and mean even when sober, stepped backward without looking. His elbow caught her tray dead center. The silver platter flipped, glasses shattered. Wine exploded across the floor in a dark red spray that looked uncomfortably like blood. The music didn't stop, but nearby conversations did. Elara's heart slammed into her throat. "You clumsy bitch!" Garrett's face was red, his words slurred. Wine dripped from his embroidered coat. "Do you know how much this cost?" I'm sorry, my lord. I didn't..." "You didn't what? Think?" "Of course you didn't think. You people never do." "You people." He meant humans. The word hung in the air like rot. Elara dropped to her knees, hands already reaching for the broken glass, her mind racing through calculations. How much would this cost her? A week's pay? 2? How would she eat? "Get out of my sight before I..." "Garrett." The voice wasn't loud. It didn't have to be. The room didn't go silent, but it got quieter. Conversations dropped to murmurs. People turned. Alpha King. Darian Nightfall stood 10 feet away, and Elara's first thought, even terrified, even humiliated, was that he looked nothing like a king should look. He should have been polished, clean, safe. He was none of those things. Darian Nightfall was tall, broad-shouldered, with black hair that looked like he'd been running his hands through it and couldn't be bothered to care. His face was all hard angles, sharp jaw, high cheekbones, a nose that had been broken at least once. His eyes were wolf gold. Not metaphorically, actually gold, with that slight inhuman glow that marked him as something more than human. He wore black. No crown, no ceremonial nonsense, just a simple black shirt and pants that somehow looked more dangerous than armor. "She spilled wine on me," Garrett said, like that explained everything. "You're drunk," Darian said. "You stepped into her. I saw it." Garrett's face went from red to purple. "My king, Go sober up." It wasn't a suggestion. Garrett opened his mouth, thought better of it, and stalked off. His friends followed like ducklings after a very angry duck. Elara stayed frozen on the floor, hands full of broken glass, blood starting to well up from a cut on her palm. "Don't look up. Don't make eye contact. Don't exist." "You're bleeding." Darian's voice was closer now. She could see his boots. Expensive leather, worn in a way that said they were used for walking, not displaying. "I'm fine, Your Majesty." Her voice came out steady. She was good at steady. She'd had practice. "Look at me." "Oh no." She looked up. His eyes were worse up close. They didn't just glow, they saw, like he could peel back skin and bone and read everything underneath. For a second, she forgot to breathe. "You serve in the castle?" he asked. "Yes, Your Majesty." "How long?" 10 years, Your Majesty." Something flickered in his expression. "And I've never seen you." It wasn't a question, but she answered anyway. "I'm very good at my job, Your Majesty." His mouth twitched. It might have been a smile. It was gone too fast to tell. "What's your name?" This was bad. This was so bad. Being noticed by the king was the opposite of survival. "Elara Vance, Your Majesty." He studied her for a moment longer, and she had the uncomfortable feeling he was memorizing her face. Then he reached down. Elara stared at his hand. It was scarred, old wounds that had healed rough, strong, dangerous. "I can stand on my own," she said. "I know." It wasn't a command. It was something else. A test, maybe. Or a courtesy, which was somehow worse. She took his hand because refusing would have been more conspicuous than accepting. His grip was warm, solid, the kind of steady that made you believe things you shouldn't believe. He pulled her to her feet like she weighed nothing. And that's when everything went wrong, because Elara, off balance and distracted and terrified, stumbled. Her free hand shot out to catch herself and touched the throne. The reaction was instant. Silver fire exploded from the bone throne, roaring up in a column of light that turned night into day. The temperature in the room spiked. People screamed. Someone dropped a glass. And Elara heard it. A voice. Not in her ears. In her bones. "Luna." The fire spread from the throne to her hand, racing up her arm in lines of molten silver that didn't burn, but should have. She tried to pull away, but the throne held her. Or maybe she was holding it. She couldn't tell. The light grew brighter, brighter, so bright she couldn't see, couldn't think, couldn't... It stopped. The fire vanished like it had never existed. Elara stood in the sudden darkness, hand still pressed against the throne, her whole body shaking. The hall was silent, completely silent. She looked down at her arm. Silver lines traced from her fingertips to her shoulder, glowing faintly under her skin like veins made of starlight. Even as she watched, they began to fade, but not disappear. Impossible. The word came from somewhere in the crowd. She couldn't see who said it. She's human. The throne doesn't choose humans. It's a trick. It's an abomination. Elara finally managed to pull her hand away from the throne. The bone surface was warm under her fingers. She looked at Darian. He was staring at her with an expression she couldn't read. His jaw was tight. His eyes were blazing gold. Your Majesty, I don't. She couldn't finish the sentence. She didn't know how. He stepped closer, close enough that she could see the silver marks appearing on his own skin, a mirror of hers, but darker, permanent. The bond mark, the thing that happened when the throne chose a Luna and Alpha together. No, 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 no. Darian! A woman's voice, Seraphine pushed through the crowd, her beautiful face twisted with something between shock and rage. Tell me this is a mistake. He didn't look at her. He was still looking at Elara. It's not a mistake, he said quietly. The hall erupted. Voices overlapped, shouting, arguing, demanding. The nobles surged forward like a wave. Elara took a step back and hit the throne. There was nowhere to go. She's human. This is madness. The throne has been corrupted. Get her away from it. A hand grabbed Elara's arm. She spun, instinct taking over, and yanked free. Her palm connected with someone's chest. She didn't see who, and silver light flashed again. The person went flying backward into the crowd. The hall went quiet again. Everyone was staring at her. Elara looked at her hands. The silver marks were glowing brighter now, responding to what? Fear? Anger? Nobody touches her. Darian's voice cut through the silence like a blade. He moved to stand between Elara and the crowd, his body a wall between her and 500 people who looked like they wanted her dead. Your Majesty, you can't possibly. The throne has chosen. His voice was flat, final. That's the law. The law was written when Lunas were worthy. That was Lord Thornfield, still wine-stained and furious. When they had bloodlines, she's nothing, a servant, a human with no pack, no family, no... Enough! The word cracked like thunder. Darian's eyes were full wolf now, all gold, all predator. The temperature in the room dropped. Thornfield shut up. But Seraphine didn't. The throne is ancient, she said, her voice shaking, not with fear, with fury. It can be fooled, corrupted. This is dark magic. It has to be. Test her then. Darian didn't turn around. Test her bloodline, test her magic, test whatever you want. But until you prove the throne is wrong, she stands under my protection. For how long? Another voice. Elara couldn't see who. How long do we endure this insult? Darian was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was colder than Elara had ever heard. 3 weeks. By the next full moon, we hold the Luna Ball. She proves herself there, or... He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. The Luna Ball, the most deadly political event in the kingdom, where alliances were made and destroyed, where rival alphas gathered to test the Luna's strength, her wit, her right to stand beside the king. It was a bloodbath in evening wear, and Elara had 3 weeks to survive it. She wanted to laugh. It came out as a choked sound that might have been a sob. 3 weeks. She'd never last 3 days. Darian finally turned to look at her. His expression was unreadable. Can you do it? He asked quietly. The honest answer was no. The smart answer was no. The only answer that would keep her alive was yes. The lie tasted like copper. His eyes narrowed slightly, like he knew exactly what she was doing. But he didn't call her on it. Good. He looked back at the crowd. The celebration is over. Everyone out. Nobody moved. Out? They moved. The hall emptied slowly, nobles shooting Elara looks that ranged from disgust to fury to something that might have been pity. Seraphine was the last to leave, her eyes locked on Elara the entire time. This isn't over, she said softly. Then she was gone. The doors closed. Silence. Elara stood alone in the massive hall with the man who was apparently her mate and the throne that had just destroyed her life. I didn't mean to touch it, she said finally. I know. I didn't use magic. I know. I don't have magic. You do now. She looked at her hands. The silver marks were still there, faint but visible. They felt warm, alive, wrong. What happens now? She asked. Darian moved to the throne, touching it with one hand. Silver light flickered where his skin met bone, but it was gentle, familiar. The throne knew him. Now, he said, you survive, or you don't. He looked at her. Those are your options. Very comforting. I'm not here to comfort you. I'm here to tell you the truth. He stepped down from the platform. The court wants you dead. Half of them will try to kill you outright. The other half will try to destroy you politically. Seraphine will do both. And you? What about me? What do you want? He was quiet for a long moment. The wolf gold eyes studied her with that same unnerving intensity. I want to know why the throne chose you, he said finally. Because it's never been wrong before. Maybe there's a first time for everything. Maybe. He turned toward the door, stopped, looked back. You should know something, he said. The bond. It goes both ways. What you feel, I feel. Your fear, your anger, your pain. He paused. And you'll feel mine. Elara's heart was racing. I don't want this. Neither do I. Then reject it. Reject me. Tell them the throne made a mistake. I can't. Why not? His jaw tightened. Because I've been king for 8 years. And in 8 years, I've killed rivals, crushed rebellions, and held this kingdom together through sheer force. But I've never lied about what the throne says. He met her eyes. If I start now, I lose everything. So I'm just, what, a political inconvenience? You're a problem I can't solve by killing it. He smiled, and it was the most dangerous expression she'd seen all night. Welcome to the court, Luna. Try not to die. Then he was gone. Elara stood alone in the throne room, surrounded by shadows and broken glass, and the fading smell of silver fire. Her hands were shaking. Her mind was racing. Her entire life had just been ripped apart and set on fire. And somewhere deep in her chest, under the fear and the anger and the absolute certainty that she was going to die, something hummed. The bond, already forming, already connecting her to a man she didn't know, and a throne that had no business choosing her. She looked at the bone throne, massive and ancient, and utterly indifferent to the chaos it had just caused. You made a mistake, she told it. The throne didn't answer, but deep in her bones that voice whispered again, Luna. Elara closed her eyes. 3 weeks. She had 3 weeks to figure out how to survive a world that wanted her dead, prove herself to people who saw her as trash, and somehow host a ball that would determine whether she lived or died. No pressure. She picked up a shard of broken glass from the floor, studying her reflection in it. Same brown eyes, same unremarkable face, same girl who'd been invisible her entire life, except now she glowed. Well, she said to the empty room, I guess invisible is off the table. Somewhere in the castle, a wolf howled. The sound echoed through stone and bone and blood. And Elara Vance, servant girl and accidental Luna, stood in the throne room and made a decision. If they wanted her to prove herself, fine. If they wanted her to host a ball, fine. If they wanted to see what happened when you gave power to someone with nothing to lose, she'd show them. She just had to figure out how to survive long enough to do it. The silver marks on her arm pulsed once, like a heartbeat. Elara walked through the empty corridors of Nightfall Keep, her bare feet silent on cold stone. The castle felt different at night. During the day, it was all noise and activity, servants rushing, nobles scheming, guards patrolling. But after midnight, it belonged to the shadows. She liked it better this way. The scullery was at the bottom of the east tower, down 3 flights of stairs that had been worn smooth by centuries of feet. It smelled like lye soap and wet stone. Home. Except it wasn't home anymore, was it? Elara! She turned. Miri stood in the doorway of the washroom, her gray hair escaping from its bun, her hands still red from scrubbing. She'd been head of the scullery for 20 years, had been the one to take Elara in when her mother died. What happened? Miri asked. The whole castle is talking about, they're saying you touched the throne, that it chose you. It did. Miri's face went pale. Oh, child. I didn't mean to. I fell. Elara's voice cracked. She pressed her lips together hard. No, she wasn't going to cry. Crying was useless. Miri crossed the room in 3 steps and pulled her into a hug. She smelled like soap and bread and safety. Elara let herself have 5 seconds. 5 seconds to be scared. Then she pulled away. I need to pack, she said. Pack? They're moving me. To the Luna's quarters. The words felt foreign in her mouth. Wrong. The Luna's quarters have been empty for 6 years, Miri said quietly. Not since the last Luna died. Elara knew the story. Everyone did. Queen Liana had been beautiful, powerful, beloved. She'd died in childbirth along with the heir. Darian had closed off her rooms and never mentioned her again. Well, they won't be empty anymore. Elara looked around the scullery, at the rough wooden table where she'd eaten 10,000 meals, the pallet in the corner where she slept, the cracked mirror that had shown her the same unremarkable face every morning for a decade. She didn't have much to pack. 2 dresses, both worn thin, a hairbrush with half the bristles missing, a book. The only thing her mother had left her, some old romance about a princess and a knight. She'd read it so many times the pages were soft as cloth. What are you going to do? Miri asked. Survive. Elara shoved the dresses into a cloth bag. For 3 weeks anyway. And then? And then I prove myself at the Luna Ball, or I die. One of the two. Don't joke about that. Who says I'm joking? Miri grabbed her shoulders, turned her around. Her eyes were fierce. Listen to me. You're not just some servant girl anymore. The throne chose you. That means something. It means I'm a target. It means you have power. Miri squeezed harder. Use it. I don't know how. Then learn. Fast. She let go, stepped back. You think any of those nobles up there were born knowing how to play their games? They learned. You can too. They had years. I have 3 weeks. Then you'd better be a quick study. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. Heavy, deliberate. A man appeared in the doorway. Tall, built like a wall, with a scar running from his left eye to his jaw. He wore the black and silver of the King's Guard. Elara Vance? His voice sounded like gravel. Yes. I'm Captain Marcus Vale. I've been assigned as your personal guard. Elara blinked. My what? The King's orders. You don't go anywhere without me, not until after the Luna Ball. I don't need a guard. You need 3. Marcus's expression didn't change. But the king could only spare me, so try not to get killed in ways I can't prevent. Comforting. I'm not here to comfort you. I'm here to keep you breathing. He looked at the bag in her hands. Is that everything? Yes. Good. Let's go. Elara hugged Miri one more time. Thank you. For everything. Don't thank me yet. Just stay alive, girl. I'll try. Marcus led her through the castle. At this hour, the corridors were mostly empty, but the few servants they passed stopped and stared. News traveled fast in Nightfall Keep. By morning, every person in the castle would know what had happened. They climbed and climbed. The Luna's quarters were in the West Tower, the highest point in the castle. By the time they reached the top, Elara's legs were burning. Marcus stopped in front of a heavy wooden door carved with wolves and silver moons. He pulled out a key, unlocked it, pushed it open. I'll be right outside, Etienne, he said. You need anything? Knock. What if I need to leave? Then I come with you. What if I need privacy? Then I wait outside the door. He met her eyes. Those are the rules. You want to argue with them? Take it up with the king. Elara stepped inside. The Luna's quarters were not what she expected. She'd been imagining something cold, abandoned, covered in dust. Instead, the room was warm. Candles burned in silver holders. The massive 4-poster bed had fresh linens. The stone fireplace held a crackling fire. Someone had prepared this. Recently. The room was circular, following the curve of the tower. Windows looked out over the kingdom. She could see the lights of the city below, the dark sprawl of the forest beyond, the mountains in the distance under a sliver of moon. There was a desk, a wardrobe, a bookshelf, a door that probably led to a bathing room. It was bigger than the entire scullery. Elara set her bag down on the bed and just stood there. This wasn't real. None of this was real. She walked to one of the windows, pressed her hand against the cold glass. Outside, the kingdom spread out like a map. Somewhere down there were people sleeping in their beds, living their normal lives, completely unaware that a servant girl had just accidentally become their Luna. The door opened behind her. She spun. Darian stood in the doorway. He'd changed. The formal clothes were gone, replaced by simple dark pants and a shirt with the sleeves rolled up. His hair was still messy. His eyes were still too sharp. "Captain Vale let you in?" she asked. "Captain Vale works for me." "Right." She crossed her arms. "What do you want?" "To talk." "We already talked." "No, I gave you information. That's different." He stepped inside, closed the door. "Now I need to know what I'm working with." "Working with?" "You." He studied her like she was a puzzle he couldn't solve. "You're not what I expected." "What did you expect?" "Tears, hysteria, begging me to fix this." "Would that have worked?" "No." "Then why waste the energy?" Elara sat down on the edge of the bed. Her feet hurt. Everything hurt. "Look, I don't know why the throne chose me. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't know how to be a Luna. I don't even know how to be a noble. So if you're looking for someone who can step into this role and make it look easy, you're going to be disappointed." "Good." She looked up. "Good? If you were pretending this was easy, I'd know you were lying." He moved to the window, looked out at the kingdom. The throne doesn't choose based on breeding or bloodline. It chooses based on strength. I'm not strong. You're alive. In this castle for 10 years, as a human servant. He glanced at her. That takes strength. That takes invisibility. Same thing sometimes. He turned to face her fully. You need to understand something about the Luna Ball. It's not a party. It's a trial. Every alpha in the region will be there. They'll test you, push you, try to break you. Why? Because if you break, it proves the throne was wrong. And if the throne was wrong about you, maybe it's been wrong about other things, like whether I should be king. His jaw tightened. They can't challenge me directly. I'm too strong, but they can challenge you. So I'm the weak link. Currently, yes. And if I fail, the bond breaks. You go back to being a servant. I choose a different Luna, probably Seraphine, and everything stays the same. Sounds simple. It would be, except for one problem. He moved closer, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. I don't want things to stay the same. Elara's heart was beating too fast. What do you mean? I mean the court is stagnant, corrupt. The same families have held the same power for generations, and they've gotten comfortable, lazy. They think they're untouchable. His eyes gleamed. You terrify them. I'm a servant girl. You're a human servant girl with no bloodline, no training, and no reason to owe any of them loyalty. You're unpredictable, uncontrollable. He smiled, and it was sharp. You're chaos. And you like chaos? I like change. And chaos is how change happens. Elara stood up. She was still shorter than him. He had at least a foot on her, but she squared her shoulders anyway. So what? You want to use me as some kind of political weapon? I want to see what happens when we give the throne what it asked for. He tilted his head. Unless you'd rather go back to the scullery. That's not fair. Nothing about this is fair, but it's real, and you can either run from it or use it. He stepped back. Your choice. Elara's hands clenched into fists. The silver marks on her arm pulsed, warm and alive. She thought about Miri's words. You have power. Use it. She thought about Seraphine's laughter. At least the dogs have bloodlines. She thought about 10 years of being invisible, of swallowing anger, of surviving by staying small. Maybe she was done being small. If I do this, she said slowly, if I actually try to survive the Luna Ball, I need help. What kind of help? Everything kind. I don't know how to talk to nobles, how to dress, how to dance, how to... She gestured helplessly. How to be anything other than a servant. I'll assign someone to teach you. Who? I'll find someone. He moved toward the door, stopped. One more thing. The bond. It's going to get stronger. You'll start feeling my emotions. I'll feel yours. It can be overwhelming. Can we stop it? No, but you can learn to control it, to shield yourself. How? Practice. He opened the door. Try to get some sleep. Tomorrow starts early. Wait, Elara stood. Why are you really doing this? It can't just be about shaking up the court. He was quiet for a long moment. 6 years ago, my mate died, he said finally. The throne stayed dark. I thought it would stay dark forever, that I'd rule alone until I died. He looked at her. Then tonight, it chose you. Maybe you're right. Maybe it made a mistake, but I've spent 6 years wondering if I made a mistake. If I could have saved her if I'd been stronger, faster, better. His voice dropped. I won't make that mistake twice. If the throne thinks you can survive this, then I'm going to make sure you get the chance to prove it. Then he was gone. The door closed. Elara stood in the middle of her new room, the Luna's room, and tried to process everything. A dead queen, a broken king, a throne that spoke in riddles, and her, caught in the middle of it all. She walked to the mirror hanging on the wall. Her reflection stared back, brown hair, brown eyes, a face that had never turned heads. The silver marks on her arm glowed faintly under her skin. "What are you?" she whispered to her reflection. The throne's voice echoed in her bones. Luna. But that was just a title. It didn't explain anything. She touched the mirror, traced the line of her jaw, her nose, her eyes, looking for some hint of specialness, some sign that the throne had seen something everyone else had missed. She found nothing, just a girl who'd gotten lucky. Or unlucky, she still wasn't sure which. Elara turned away from the mirror, stripped off her servant's dress, and pulled on the nightgown someone had left on the bed. It was soft, expensive, nothing like the rough cotton she was used to. She climbed into bed. The mattress was too soft, the pillows too many. She felt like she was drowning in luxury. But eventually, exhaustion won. She closed her eyes. And deep in her chest, the bond hummed. Survival, she thought as she drifted towards sleep. That's all I have to do, survive 3 weeks. How hard could it be? Someone was pounding on the door. Elara jerked awake, heart hammering, momentarily confused about where she was. The bed was too soft. The room too big. Then memory crashed back. Throne, fire, bond, 3 weeks to live. Right. The pounding continued. "I'm coming!" She stumbled out of bed, grabbed a robe from the chair, and yanked open the door. A woman stood there, tall, silver-haired, wearing a dress that probably cost more than Elara would earn in 5 years. Her face was all sharp angles and sharper judgment. "You're the human." Not a question, an accusation. "Good morning to you too," Elara said. The woman's eyes narrowed. "I am Lady Constance Ashford, former Luna to the Eastern Territories and current advisor to the Crown. The king has assigned me to transform you from a scullery rat into something resembling a Luna." She looked Elara up and down, though I suspect that's beyond even my considerable skills. "Wow. And here I thought we'd start with pleasantries." "We don't have time for pleasantries. We have 20 days. Lady Constance swept past her into the room. 20 days to teach you everything you should have learned over 20 years. Do you have any idea how impossible that is? Then why bother? Because the king commanded it, and I don't disobey the king. She spun around. But understand this. I think the throne made a catastrophic mistake. You are unworthy, unprepared, and frankly, an embarrassment. However, if you insist on going through with this farce, you will at least look the part. I will not have my reputation tarnished because you showed up to the Luna Ball looking like a kitchen wench. Elara's temper flared. The silver marks on her arm tingled. Is this how you talk to everyone? Or am I special? You want honesty? Fine. You're a human with no magic, no bloodline, and no business being anywhere near that throne. But the king seems to think you deserve a chance, so here I am. Lady Constance crossed her arms. Now, are you going to waste my time being offended, or are you going to learn? Elara took a breath, swallowed her pride. Again. Teach me. Good. First lesson, a Luna doesn't answer the door in her nightclothes. Where is your attendant? My what? Lady Constance closed her eyes like she was in physical pain. Your attendant. The servant assigned to help you dress, arrange your hair, manage your schedule. I am the servant. You were the servant. Now you're the Luna. Act like it. She walked to the door, opened it. Captain Vale. Marcus appeared. My lady? Why doesn't she have an attendant? The king didn't mention, well, I'm mentioning it. Find someone trustworthy, female, discreet. She paused. And someone who won't try to poison her. That narrows the field considerably. Marcus nodded and disappeared. Lady Constance turned back to Elara. Second lesson. You don't dress yourself. You don't do your own hair. You don't fetch your own anything. Those days are over. I like those days. Too bad. You gave them up when you touched that throne. She moved to the wardrobe, threw it open. It was full of dresses, beautiful dresses in silk and velvet and fabrics Elara couldn't name. Did these come with the room? I think so. They belong to Queen Liana. You're approximately the same size. Lady Constance pulled out a deep green dress, held it up, frowned. This will do for today. Tomorrow we'll have the royal seamstress fit you properly. Elara stared at the dress. I can't wear a dead queen's clothes. Why not? She's not using them. Lady Constance tossed the dress on the bed. Stop being sentimental. Queens don't have that luxury. I'm not a queen. Not yet. But you will be if you survive. She pulled out undergarments, stockings, shoes. Now, let's discuss your first real challenge. What challenge? Breakfast. Elara blinked. Breakfast. The king has invited you to dine with him and the senior court members this morning. Public appearance. Everyone will be watching to see if you can handle basic table manners. Lady Constance's smile was thin. Can you? I know how to use a fork. There will be 7 forks and 3 spoons, and more knives than you've probably seen in your entire life. She sat down on the chair, folded her hands. You'll be seated at the king's right hand, the Luna's place. Seraphine will be watching. Thornfield will be watching. Every noble in that room will be looking for you to fail. Then maybe I shouldn't go. Running away already? Lady Constance raised an eyebrow. How very Luna-like. The sarcasm stung. It was meant to. Fine, I'll go. Excellent. Now, let's get you dressed. And for the love of all that's holy, try not to slouch. An hour later, Elara stood in front of the mirror and barely recognized herself. The green dress fit perfectly, high-necked, long-sleeved, with silver embroidery that caught the light. Her hair had been pulled back and twisted into something complicated. Lady Constance had even produced jewelry. A silver chain with a wolf pendant. The Luna's necklace, she'd said, fastening it around Elara's neck. It's been in the vault since Liana died. Try not to lose it. Elara touched the pendant. It was warm. One more thing. Lady Constance handed her a pair of gloves. Soft leather, dark green to match the dress. Your marks are showing. Some people find them disturbing. Elara pulled on the gloves. The silver lines disappeared. Better, Lady Constance said. Now remember, speak only when spoken to. Don't contradict the king. Don't engage with Seraphine no matter what she says. Keep your eyes down unless directly addressed. And whatever you do, don't let them see you sweat. That's a lot of don'ts. That's noble life. Get used to it. She opened the door. Captain Vale will escort you to the dining hall. I'll see you this afternoon for your first etiquette lesson. Wait, aren't you coming? To breakfast? Certainly not. I have standards. Lady Constance swept past her. Good luck, child. You'll need it. Then she was gone. Marcus waited in the hallway. He looked her up and down, and something that might have been approval flickered across his scarred face. You clean up well, he said. Thanks, I think. Ready? No. Yes. They walked through the castle. In daylight, Nightfall Keep looked different, less ominous, more alive. Servants hurried past carrying linens and trays. Guards stood at attention. Nobles strolled in clusters, whispering behind their hands. Every single person stared at Elara. Some looked curious, some looked disgusted. Most looked predatory. Marcus stayed close, his hand resting on his sword hilt. A reminder that he was there, that he'd kill anyone who got too close. It should have been comforting. It wasn't. They reached the dining hall, a massive room with windows overlooking the gardens, and a table that could seat 50 people. Most of the seats were already filled. The conversation died the moment Elara entered. 50 pairs of eyes turned toward her. Elara's first instinct was to run. Her second was to apologize for existing. Her third was to remember that she was wearing a dead queen's dress and a Luna's necklace, and that running would only prove everyone right. So she lifted her chin and walked. The table was U-shaped. Darian sat at the center of the curve, the place of power. The seat to his right was empty, waiting for her. Seraphine sat 3 seats down on the left side, wearing a dress the color of blood. Her eyes tracked Elara like a wolf watching prey. Lord Thornfield was there too, looking hungover and murderous. Several other nobles Elara didn't recognize, and at the far end, her breath caught. Miri stood against the wall with the other servants, holding a pitcher of water. Their eyes met for half a second. Miri's face was carefully blank, but Elara saw the worry there. "Luna, Elara." Darian's voice cut through the silence. "Please join us." He didn't stand, didn't smile, just gestured to the empty chair. Elara walked to it, hyper-aware of every step, every breath. Don't trip, don't stumble, don't give them ammunition. She reached the chair. A servant appeared out of nowhere to pull it out for her. She sat. The table was exactly as Lady Constance had warned. Multiple forks, multiple knives, glasses of different sizes. A plate already set with something that smelled amazing but looked complicated to eat. "I trust you slept well?" Darian asked. His voice was polite, distant, like they were strangers. Maybe they were. "Yes, Your Majesty, thank you." "The Luna's quarters are to your liking?" "They're very generous." "Good." He picked up his fork, the outermost one on the left, Elara noticed, and took a bite of whatever was on his plate. That was apparently the signal. Everyone else started eating. Elara looked at her plate. Some kind of egg dish with herbs and cheese. She reached for the fork Darian had used. "Wrong fork." Seraphine's voice was sweet, poisonous. "That's for the second course, dear. You want the smaller one." Heat rushed to Elara's face. She switched forks. "It's an easy mistake," Seraphine continued, loud enough for half the table to hear. "I'm sure no one expects you to know proper table etiquette, given your background." "Seraphine." Darian's voice was flat. "Don't. Don't what?" "I'm simply stating facts." She smiled. "We can't all be raised in castles, after all. Some of us had to work for our position." "Some of us still do," Elara said before she could stop herself. The table went quiet. Seraphine's smile sharpened. "Excuse me?" "Working. I'm still working, trying to prove myself, just like you did." Elara met her eyes. "We're not so different. We are nothing alike." "Aren't we?" "You want to be Luna. I'm accidentally Luna. Both of us fighting for the same thing. I am fighting for what I earned. You stumbled into it like a drunk into a ditch." "Ladies," Darian set down his fork. The sound was very loud. "This is breakfast, not a battlefield." "Of course, Your Majesty." Seraphine inclined her head, but her eyes stayed on Elara, promising violence. The rest of the meal passed in tense silence. Elara managed to eat without using the wrong utensil again, though she was sure she made other mistakes. Every time she reached for something, she felt the weight of 50 judgments. Lord Thornfield cleared his throat. "Your Majesty, if I may speak plainly?" "When have you not?" Darian said. "This situation, it's causing unrest. My people are asking questions, questions I don't have good answers for." "What kind of questions?" "Why a human? Why now? Why someone with no training, no lineage, no—" "The throne chose her," Darian said. "That's the only answer that matters. But what if the throne is wrong?" A woman spoke up, Lady Helena something, Elara couldn't remember. "What if this is a test? What if we're supposed to reject this choice?" "Then you're welcome to try." Darian's voice went cold. "Touch the throne. See what it says about you." No one moved. "That's what I thought." He stood. "The throne has never chosen wrong in 300 years. I won't assume it started now just because you're uncomfortable." "Uncomfortable?" Thornfield's face was red. "My king, she's a servant, a human. She has no business—" "Enough." The word cracked like a whip. "I've made my decision. The Luna Ball will proceed as planned. Elara will be tested, and she will prove herself, and anyone who interferes will answer to me personally." The threat hung in the air. Finally, Darian stood. "I have matters to attend to. Luna, Elara, walk with me." It wasn't a request. Elara stood, her legs shaky. Marcus moved to follow, but Darian waved him off. "Stay. We won't go far." They left the dining hall together. The moment they were in the corridor, Darian's shoulders relaxed slightly. "You survived," he said. "Barely. Barely is enough." He led her down a hallway she didn't recognize, past tapestries showing wolves hunting in moonlight. "You did well. Better than I expected." "Seraphine hates me." "Seraphine hates everyone. Don't take it personally." "She loved you." Darian stopped walking, looked at her. "Who told you that?" "No one. I have eyes." Elara crossed her arms. "She expected to be Luna, and then I touched the throne and ruined everything. She expected a lot of things that were never going to happen." He started walking again. "Seraphine is ambitious, ruthless. She would have made a powerful Luna. But the throne didn't choose her. It chose you." He stopped in front of a door, pushed it open. "Come on. I want to show you something." Inside was a library. Not the grand public library. This was smaller, more personal. Books lined every wall from floor to ceiling. A fireplace crackled. 2 chairs sat facing the windows. "This was my father's study," Darian said. "Now it's mine. No one comes here except me." "Why are you showing me this?" "Because you need to understand something about the throne." He moved to one of the shelves, pulled out a book, old, leather-bound. "This is the history of the Wolf Kings, every Alpha who's ever ruled this kingdom, and every Luna who stood beside them." He handed her the book. She opened it carefully. The pages were thick, handwritten, names and dates and brief descriptions. "Read the last entry," Darian said. Elara flipped to the end. Darian Nightfall, crowned age 22 after the death of his father, King Aldrich. Luna, Lyanna Ashford, bond formed year 1 of reign. Luna deceased year 2 of reign. Cause, childbirth complications. Heir, deceased. Throne status, dark. She looked up. "It says the throne went dark." "It did. For 6 years." He took the book back, closed it. "Do you know what that means?" "That there was no Luna. It means the throne was waiting. The bond can only form once in a lifetime. When Lyanna died, I thought I was done, that I'd rule alone until I died and the throne passed to someone else." He set the book down. "Then it chose you." Elara's throat was tight. "Why?" "That's what I'm trying to figure out." He studied her. "You're not like the others. The previous Lunas, they were all from noble families, trained from birth. They knew how to rule. And I don't. No. But you know how to survive. And maybe that's what the throne needs right now." He moved to the window. "This kingdom is dying, Elara. Slowly. The noble families are corrupt. The laws favor the rich. The common people, humans especially, are treated like dirt. I've been trying to change it, but I'm one man. Every reform I propose, the council blocks. Every law I want to pass, they vote down. Because they like things the way they are." "Exactly." He turned to face her. "But if the throne chose a human Luna, if you survive the ball and take your place, it changes everything. It says that humans aren't lesser, that power isn't just about bloodlines, it's a revolution. Or it's a disaster that gets me killed. That too." He smiled slightly. "I won't lie to you, this is dangerous. But if you pull it off, if you prove yourself, you'll have more power than any Luna in history, because you'll have earned it in a way they never had to." Elara looked down at her gloved hands. The silver marks were hidden, but she could feel them, pulsing, alive. "What if I can't do it?" she asked quietly. "What if I'm not strong enough? Then the bond breaks and you go back to your old life." He paused. "But I don't think you want that." He was right. The thought of going back to the scullery, back to being invisible, it made her chest tight. She'd tasted something different, something dangerous, power, not the kind that came from bloodlines or breeding, the kind that came from being chosen, from having something everyone else wanted, and she wasn't ready to give it up. "Okay," she said. "I'll try." "Good." Darian moved toward the door. "Lady Constance will train you in etiquette and politics. I'll arrange combat training. You need to know how to defend yourself." "Combat training?" "The Luna Ball isn't just social. There will be challenges, physical ones." He looked back at her. "You need to be ready." "How much danger am I actually in?" "Honestly, a lot. Seraphine will try to destroy your reputation. Thornfield will try to intimidate you. And there are others, rival alphas from other territories who don't want a human Luna. Some of them will challenge you directly. Challenge me how? Duels, tests of strength, political traps. He opened the door. The Luna Ball is a gauntlet. Every alpha will get one chance to test you. If you fail even one, the whole court sees it. And if enough of them decide you're weak, what happens? They'll call for a vote to reject the throne's choice. It's never been done before, but there's precedent in the old laws. His jaw tightened. If that vote passes, the bond breaks immediately. And you go back to being nobody. Worse, you become the human who tried to be Luna and failed. You'll be a target for the rest of your life. He met her eyes. So don't fail. Then he left. Elara stood alone in the library, surrounded by the weight of history and the ghosts of dead queens. She pulled off one glove. The silver marks glowed faintly. You better know what you're doing, she whispered to the throne that wasn't there. No answer. Just the crackling of the fire and the sound of her own heartbeat. The next 2 weeks were brutal. Every morning, Lady Constance arrived at dawn to drill Elara on etiquette. How to walk, shoulders back, chin up, glide don't stomp. How to talk, measured, calm, never let them hear fear. How to navigate conversations, listen more than you speak, answer questions with questions, never reveal weakness. You're a servant, Lady Constance said on day 3, after Elara had curtsied wrong for the 10th time. You think like a servant. You move like a servant. You apologize like a servant. Stop it. I am a servant. You were a servant. Now you're a threat. Act like it. Lady Constance circled her like a predator. What did I just tell you about posture? Shoulders back, and yet you're slouching again. Elara straightened. Her back ached from holding the position for hours. Better. Now, let's practice conversation. I'm Lady Helena. I've just insulted your dress. What do you say? Thank you for your opinion? Wrong. You never thank someone for an insult. You deflect. You redirect. You make them look foolish without ever raising your voice. Lady Constance demonstrated. You might say, how kind of you to notice. I find that those with true style rarely feel the need to comment on others. That's vicious. That's survival. Again. They practice for hours. How to hold a wine glass. How to decline an invitation without giving offense. How to smile when you wanted to scream. How to be someone else entirely. In the afternoons, a woman named Kira arrived for combat training. She was short, scarred, and moved like violence was her first language. The king says you need to learn to fight, Kira said on the first day. She tossed Elara a wooden practice sword. So let's see what you've got. Elara had never held a sword in her life. She swung it clumsily. Kira's sword cracked against her knuckles. Pain exploded up her arm. Again. That hurt. It's supposed to hurt. Pain teaches faster than words. Again. By the end of the first week, Elara had bruises on her bruises. Her hands were blistered. Her body ached in places she didn't know could ache. But she was learning how to hold a sword, how to block, how to move, how to read an opponent's body language and know when they were about to strike. You're too slow, Kira said on day 8, after knocking Elara on her back for the 5th time. Stop thinking. Start reacting. I don't know how. Then you'll keep losing. Kira offered her a hand up. Fighting isn't about technique. It's about instinct. Your body knows what to do. You just have to stop getting in its way. That makes no sense, doesn't it? Kira stepped back, raised her sword. Come at me. Don't think. Just move. Elara charged. Kira sidestepped easily and Elara went stumbling past. Again, faster. Again, and again, and again. Until Elara's muscles screamed and her lungs burned and her mind went blank. And then she moved, not thinking, not planning, just pure reaction. Her sword met Kira's with a crack that rang across the training yard. For half a second, they were locked together. Then Kira pushed her back, but she was smiling. There, she said. That's what I'm talking about. Do that at the ball, and you might not die. Might not? I'm being optimistic. At night, Elara collapsed into bed and felt the bond humming in her chest. Sometimes she caught flashes of Darian's emotions, frustration, anger, exhaustion. Once, late at night, something that might have been grief. She tried not to think about it. tried not to wonder what kept a king awake at night. But the Bond had other ideas. On day 10, she woke up gasping, her heart racing with fear that wasn't hers. Somewhere in the castle, Darien was having a nightmare. She felt it, every second of it, terror and loss and the desperate need to protect something that was already gone. The bond pulsed between them like a living thing, and then, as suddenly as it started, it stopped. Silence. Elara lay in the dark, her own heart still pounding, and wondered if he'd felt her fear too. If he knew she'd been there, a witness to whatever demons haunted him. The next morning, he didn't mention it, neither did she. On day 12, everything changed. Elara was in the training yard with Kira, practicing footwork, when Marcus appeared. "There's someone here to see you," he said. "Who?" "Alpha Ronan Blackwood, Northern Territories." Kira's expression darkened. "That's not good." "Who is he?" Elara asked. "Trouble," Marcus said. "He's one of the Alphas who'll be at the Luna Ball. And he just arrived a week early." "Why?" "To test you. Now. The king wants you in the throne room immediately." Elara's stomach dropped. "I'm not ready." "Doesn't matter. He's waiting." She looked at Kira, who just shrugged. "Might as well find out what you're up against. Just remember, don't back down. Alphas respect strength. Show weakness, and he'll tear you apart." Elara changed quickly, back into one of Liana's dresses. This one deep blue. Her hands were shaking as she fastened the Luna's necklace. Marcus led her through the castle. Servants pressed themselves against walls as they passed. Word had already spread. The Northern Alpha was here. They reached the throne room. The massive doors were already open. Inside, Darien stood beside the throne, looking every inch the king. And facing him, Alpha Ronan Blackwood was huge, easily 6.5 feet tall, broad as a mountain, with white blonde hair and ice blue eyes. He wore furs and leather. A sword hung at his hip. Scars crisscrossed his face and hands. He looked like winter personified. "Ah," he said when he saw Elara. "The human." His voice was deep, accented, not quite mocking, but close. Elara walked to stand beside Darien. The throne loomed behind them. "Alpha Ronan," Darien said, "you're early." "I heard rumors." Ronan's eyes never left Elara. "A human Luna. I had to see for myself if the great Darien Nightfall had finally lost his mind. The throne chose her. So I hear." He stepped closer. Elara forced herself not to step back. "Tell me, little human, what makes you think you deserve to stand beside a king?" "I don't think anything," Elara said. "The throne chose me. Take it up with the throne." "Bold words. Let's see if you can back them up." He pulled off one glove. His hand was massive, scarred. "Touch my hand. Let me feel this bond everyone's talking about." "Why?" "Because I want to know if you're real or just another court trick." Elara looked at Darien. He gave the slightest nod. She pulled off her own glove. The silver marks blazed to life in the light from the windows. Ronan's eyes widened slightly. "Interesting." She held out her hand. He took it. The moment their skin touched, silver fire exploded between them. Not as strong as when she'd touched the throne, but powerful enough to make Ronan jerk back. "What was that?" he demanded. "The bond," Darien said. "It protects her. Anyone who tries to harm her through physical contact gets burned." "I wasn't trying to harm her." "The bond doesn't care about intent. Only action." Ronan stared at his hand. There was no burn mark, but Elara could see him flexing his fingers like they'd gone numb. "You're full of surprises, little human." He looked at Darien. "I'll reserve judgment until the ball. But know this, I won't go easy on her. If she's truly worthy, she'll prove it. If not," he smiled, "well, I'm sure you'll find a more suitable Luna somewhere." "She is suitable," Darien said. "Then she has nothing to fear from my tests." Ronan pulled his glove back on. "I look forward to seeing what she's made of." He turned to leave, then stopped. Looked back at Elara. "One piece of advice, girl. The other alphas won't be as polite as me. Some of them will try to break you. Others will try to humiliate you. And a few will try to kill you outright, throne be damned." His ice blue eyes were serious. "If you want to survive, you'll need to be more than just chosen. You'll need to be ruthless." "I'll keep that in mind," Elara said. "See that you do." Then he was gone, his footsteps echoing through the hall. The doors closed. Alara's knees nearly gave out. She grabbed the edge of the throne to steady herself. The bone was warm under her hand, almost comforting. "That was stupid," Darian said. "I know. Brave, but stupid." He moved closer. "You challenged him, made him look foolish in front of witnesses." "I thought I was supposed to show strength." "Strength, yes. Suicidal defiance, no." But there was something in his voice that might have been approval. "Ronan is one of the most powerful alphas in the kingdom. He controls the entire northern region. His army could match mine." "Then why did you let me challenge him?" "Because you need to learn that there are consequences to boldness." He touched her shoulder briefly. The contact sent warmth through the bond. "But you stood your ground. That's good. Keep doing that. Even if it gets me killed, especially then, better to die standing than live on your knees." He stepped back. "The other alphas will arrive within the week. Word will spread about what happened here today. Some will see it as strength. Others will see it as arrogance. Either way, you're going to have a target on your back." "Bigger than the one that's already there?" "Much bigger." He moved toward his door. "Double your training. Morning and night. We have less time than I thought." "Why?" "Because Ronan just moved up the timeline. If he's here early, others will follow. They'll want to test you before the ball, try to shake your confidence." His jaw tightened. "The next week is going to be worse than anything you've experienced so far." "Great, can't wait." He almost smiled. "You're learning sarcasm. That's very Luna-like." Then he was gone. Elara stood alone in the throne room, her whole body shaking with adrenaline and fear and something else. Pride. She'd just faced down an alpha, one of the most powerful men in the kingdom, and she hadn't backed down. The throne pulsed behind her, warm and alive, and somewhere deep in her chest, the bond whispered, "Survive." She would. She had to. Because going back to being nothing wasn't an option anymore. She'd rather burn. The words echoed in Elara's head as she walked back to her quarters, Marcus a silent shadow behind her. Her hands were still trembling, not from fear, but from the rush of adrenaline that came from staring down a man who could snap her in half without breaking a sweat. The corridor was empty. Most of the nobles were at afternoon tea or whatever it was they did when they weren't plotting. Elara was grateful for the silence. Until she wasn't. A figure stepped out from a side hallway. Seraphine. She wore black today, her hair loose around her shoulders. She looked like a funeral. "Well, well," she said, "the little servant girl grows claws." Elara kept walking. "Not now, Seraphine." "Oh, I think now is perfect." Seraphine fell into step beside her. Marcus's hand went to his sword, but Seraphine ignored him. "I heard about your little performance in the throne room. Very brave, very stupid. Is there a point to this conversation?" "The point is that you're making enemies faster than you're making friends." Seraphine's voice was silk over steel. "Alpha Ronan isn't the only one watching you. There are others, worse ones, and they're not going to be impressed by your defiance. Then they can take it up with the king." "The king can't protect you forever." Seraphine stopped walking, forcing Elara to stop too. "You think this is a game? You think you can just show up and take what's mine?" "I didn't take anything. The throne chose. The throne is wrong." The words came out like venom. "It has to be, because you're nothing. A human with no power, no training, no right to stand where queens have stood. And when you fail, and you will fail, I'll be there to pick up the pieces." Elara met her eyes. "You sound scared." Seraphine's face went very still. "What did you say?" "You heard me. You're scared. Because if I succeed, it proves that bloodlines don't matter. That all your training, all your breeding, all your perfect noble pedigree means nothing compared to what the throne wants." Elara stepped closer. "And that terrifies you." For a second, Seraphine looked like she might hit her. Her hand actually came up. Then she smiled instead. It was worse than the anger. "Enjoy your confidence while it lasts," she said softly. "The Luna Ball is in 6 days. And I promise you, little human, you won't survive it." She swept past, her dress rustling like dead leaves. Marcus exhaled slowly. "You really like making enemies, don't you?" "Apparently it's my new talent." Elara started walking again, her heart pounding. "Add it to the list of things I'm terrible at." "For what it's worth, you handled that well." I called one of the most dangerous women in the kingdom scared to her face. How is that handling it well? Because you were right, and she knows it. Marcus opened the door to her quarters. Get some rest. Tomorrow's going to be worse. Why? What's tomorrow? The other alphas start arriving, and they'll all want to meet you. Great. Elara walked into her room and closed the door, leaned against it, tried to breathe. The bond hummed in her chest, warm and insistent. Somewhere in the castle, Darian was, working, fighting? She couldn't tell. The emotions that bled through were too tangled. She pulled off her gloves. The silver marks glowed faintly in the dimming light. What am I doing? She whispered to the empty room. No answer. Just the sound of wind against the windows and the distant howl of wolves in the forest. She was so tired, bone-deep tired, the kind that sleep wouldn't fix. But she couldn't afford to be tired. Not now. Not with 6 days left. 6 days to learn how to be someone she wasn't. 6 days to convince a kingdom she belonged. 6 days to survive. A knock on the door startled her. She opened it to find a young woman standing there, maybe a few years older than Elara, with dark hair and nervous eyes. Luna Elara? Her voice was soft, uncertain. I'm Sarah. Captain Vale assigned me as your attendant. Elara blinked. Oh, right. Come in. Sarah stepped inside, her eyes widening as she took in the room. I've never been in the Luna's quarters before. It's beautiful. It's too big, Elara said, then caught herself. That wasn't very Luna-like. I mean, yes, it's lovely. Thank you. Sarah smiled slightly. You don't have to pretend with me. I know who you were, who you are. And that doesn't bother you? Why would it? My mother was a kitchen servant. My father was a stable hand. I'm not exactly noble blood either. She set down the bag she'd been carrying. Lady Constance sent me with instructions for tomorrow, an address for the evening meal. Evening meal? The king is hosting a dinner for the visiting alphas. Sarah pulled a dress from the bag, deep red silk with black embroidery. You're expected to attend. Of course she was. How many alphas are here now? Elara asked. 3, including Alpha Ronan. Alpha Vera from the Eastern Territories arrived this afternoon, and Alpha Marcus from the South, no relation to Captain Vale, is expected before sunset. 3. And more coming. Sarah, can I ask you something? Of course, my lady. Don't call me that, just Elara. She sat on the edge of the bed. What are people saying? The servants? The common folk? What do they think about all this? Sarah was quiet for a moment. Honestly? Please. Some think it's wonderful that a human was chosen, that maybe things will change. She paused. Others think you're going to get yourself killed and make things worse for the rest of us. And you? I think you're braver than anyone gives you credit for. Sarah met her eyes. And I think if you can survive this, you might actually change something. So I'm going to help you however I can. Elara felt her throat tighten. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We have to get you ready for dinner. And trust me, that's going to be its own battle. She wasn't wrong. 2 hours later, Elara stood in front of the mirror again, barely recognizing herself. The red dress fit like it had been made for her, which it probably had been for Liana. Sarah had done something complicated with her hair, pulling it half up with silver pins that matched the Luna's necklace. You look like a queen, Sarah said. I look like I'm playing dress-up. Same thing sometimes. Sarah handed her the gloves. Remember what Lady Constance taught you? Head up, shoulders back. Don't apologize for existing. That last one's harder than it sounds. I know, but you can do it. Sarah stepped back. Captain Vale is waiting outside. Good luck. Elara took a deep breath and opened the door. Marcus was there, as promised. He looked her up and down and nodded once. Approval. Ready? He asked. No, let's go anyway. The dining hall was already full when they arrived. Not the same dining hall as breakfast. This was smaller, more intimate. A single long table set for maybe 20 people. Candles everywhere, the smell of roasted meat and wine. And alphas. She recognized Ronan immediately. He sat near the head of the table, talking to a woman with silver hair and eyes like chips of amber. That had to be Alpha Vera. The other guests were a mix of nobles and visiting dignitaries. All of them stopped talking when Elara entered. Darian stood at the head of the table. He wore black again, but this time with a formal coat that had silver wolves embroidered on the shoulders. He looked every inch a king. His eyes found hers across the room. Something passed between them through the bond. Recognition, maybe. Or warning. "Luna Elara," he said. "Please, join us." The seat to his right was empty. Again. Elara walked to it, feeling every eye track her movement. She sat with as much grace as she could manage. "Everyone," Darian said, "allow me to formally introduce Luna Elara Vance, my mate and the throne's chosen." Silence. Then Ronan raised his glass. "To the Luna. May she prove as fierce as she is unexpected." It wasn't exactly a compliment, but others raised their glasses too. Even Seraphine, though her smile could have cut glass. Elara lifted her own glass. Took a sip. The wine was too sweet. "So," the silver-haired woman, Alpha Vera, said, leaning forward, "tell us about yourself, Luna Elara. I'm sure we're all curious about the human who captured the throne's attention." It was a trap. Elara could feel it. "There's not much to tell," she said carefully. "I was a servant here. I touched the throne by accident, and here we are." "By accident," Vera repeated. "How fortunate." "Fortunate isn't the word I'd use." That got a laugh from someone down the table. Vera's eyes narrowed. "And what word would you use?" "Terrifying. Overwhelming. Completely absurd." Elara met her eyes. "Take your pick." "At least she's honest," a man's voice said, deep, with a southern accent. "That's more than I can say for most nobles." The speaker was massive, bigger even than Ronan, with dark skin and scars that covered half his face. Alpha Marcus, she assumed. "Honesty is refreshing," he continued, "but it won't keep you alive at the Luna Ball." "What will?" Elara asked. "Strength, cunning, the ability to kill without hesitation." He smiled, and it wasn't friendly. "Do you have any of those qualities?" "I guess we'll find out." "Indeed we will." He raised his glass. "I look forward to testing you myself." Darian's hand found hers under the table. A warning. Or comfort. She couldn't tell. The meal continued. Courses appeared and disappeared. Conversation flowed around her. Politics, alliances, veiled threats disguised as pleasantries. Elara tried to follow it all, but it was like watching a chess game where she didn't know the rules. Halfway through the main course, Vera spoke again. "I have a question, Your Majesty." She looked at Darian. "The Luna Ball traditionally includes the trial of worth. Will that still be held, given the unique circumstances?" Darian's jaw tightened. "Yes." "Forgive me, but isn't that dangerous? The trial has killed trained warriors. A human servant will face the same trial as any other Luna," Darian said flatly. "No exceptions." Elara's stomach dropped. "What trial?" The table went quiet. "You didn't tell her?" Vera sounded delighted. "Oh, this is rich. Tell me what?" Elara looked at Darian. He didn't meet her eyes. "The trial of worth. It's part of the Luna Ball. A test of strength and courage. You'll face 3 challenges chosen by the attending alphas." "What kind of challenges?" "That depends on who chooses them." Ronan leaned back in his chair. "Could be combat. Could be a test of will. Could be anything, really. The only rule is that you have to survive. And if I don't, then the bond breaks and you die." Well, Vera's smile was sharp. "Though I suppose die is a bit dramatic. You'd just be horribly maimed. Probably." Elara felt the room tilt. She gripped the edge of the table. "You didn't think to mention this?" she said to Darian. "I was going to tell you." "When? After I was already in the arena?" "There's still time to prepare." "Time?" She laughed, and it came out wrong. Broken. "I have 6 days to learn how to survive 3 challenges designed by people who want me dead. That's not time. That's a death sentence." "Then maybe you should quit now," Seraphine said from down the table. "Save everyone the trouble of watching you fail." Elara turned to look at her. The bond flared hot in her chest. Anger, not hers, Darian's, but she spoke before he could. "No." "No?" Seraphine raised an eyebrow. "No, I won't quit, because that's what you want. What all of you want." She stood up, her chair scraping against stone. You want me to run, to prove that I'm weak, that humans don't belong here. You don't belong here, Thornfield said. He'd been quiet until now, but apparently couldn't resist. That's not an insult. It's a fact. Then I'll prove the fact wrong. Elara looked around the table, at the alphas with their scars and their power, at the nobles with their silks and their judgment. You want to test me? Fine. Bring your challenges. I'll face them. Brave words, Marcus said. Let's see if you can back them up. I will. How can you be so sure? Because I have nothing to lose. She pulled off one glove. The silver marks blazed. You all have kingdoms to protect, reputations to maintain, power you're afraid of losing. But me? I'm already nothing. I've already lost everything just by being chosen. So what else can you take from me? The table was silent. Death? She looked at each of them in turn. I've lived my whole life one mistake away from death. You think your trial scares me more than a decade of being invisible? Of knowing that if I stepped out of line, if I said the wrong thing, if I looked at the wrong person, I could disappear and no one would care? She turned to Darian. You wanted to know why the throne chose me? Maybe it's because I'm already used to surviving the impossible. Then she walked out. Marcus called after her, but she didn't stop. Couldn't stop. Her heart was racing. Her hands were shaking. The bond was screaming in her chest. Darian's shock, his anger, his pride? She made it to the corridor before her legs gave out. She caught herself against the wall, breathing hard. Footsteps behind her. Not Marcus. Heavier. Darian appeared, his face unreadable. That was stupid. I know, but I meant it. I know you did. He moved closer. That's what scares me. You're scared? Of course I'm scared. You just declared war on every alpha in that room. They're going to make your trial as brutal as possible now. They were going to do that anyway. She straightened. At least now they know I won't break easily. Breaking and dying are two different things. Maybe I'm okay with both. Well, I'm not. His hand found her shoulder. The bond flared warm. You don't get to die. Not after I've finally... He stopped, shook his head. Finally what? Nothing. Come on, we need to talk. He led her back to his private library. The fire was still burning. He poured 2 glasses of something amber and handed her one. Drink. You look like you need it. She did. It burned going down. Good. I should have told you about the trial, Darian said. That was wrong. But I was trying to protect you from what? The truth? I don't need protection. I need information. She set down the glass. Tell me everything about the trial, about the challenges, about what I'm actually facing. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he sat down and started talking. The trial of worth has 3 parts, 3 challenges chosen by 3 different alphas. The first is always combat, usually a fight against a trained warrior. The second is a test of will, could be anything from enduring pain to solving an impossible puzzle under pressure. The third is chosen by the hosting alpha, that's me. And it's traditionally a test of worthiness to rule. What does that mean? It means I have to design a challenge that proves you're capable of being Luna, of making hard decisions, of putting the kingdom before yourself. He met her eyes. It's the hardest one, because there's no right answer, only choices and consequences. Elara's mouth was dry. Has anyone ever failed all 3? Yes. What happened to them? They died, or wished they had. She sat down heavily. Okay, so I'm probably going to die. Not if I can help it. How? You can't interfere. You said the alphas choose the challenges. I can't interfere during the trial, but I can make sure you're ready before it starts. He leaned forward. We have 6 days. We're going to use every second. Kira will train you morning, noon, and night. Lady Constance will teach you strategy. And You what? I'm going to teach you how to use the bond. Elara blinked. Use it how? The throne gave you power. You've been ignoring it, hiding it. But if you learn to channel it, you might survive. He held out his hand. Take off your glove. She did. The marks glowed brighter in the firelight. Now touch my hand. She hesitated. Last time I touched someone, they went flying. That's because you weren't controlling it. You were just reacting. He kept his hand extended. Trust me. She placed her hand in his. The bond exploded between them. Not painful, not exactly, but overwhelming. She felt everything, his determination, his fear, his desperate need to keep her alive. And underneath it all, something else. Something he was trying very hard to hide. Grief. So deep it had no bottom. Focus, Darian said, his voice strained. Don't just feel it. Direct it. The power flows both ways. You can take from me or you can give to me. Right now you're taking. Stop. I don't know how. Yes, you do. You've been holding back your whole life. This is the opposite. Let go. Push instead of pull. Elara closed her eyes, concentrated. The power was like water rushing through her veins. She tried to imagine it flowing the other way. Something shifted. Darian gasped. She opened her eyes. His hand was glowing now, silver light spreading up his arm. Good, he said. That's good. Now pull it back. She did. The light faded. They were left holding hands in the firelight, both breathing hard. What was that? She asked. That was you learning to control the bond. With practice, you can use it as a weapon, or a shield, or... He stopped. Or what? Or a bridge between us, so I can help you even when I'm not supposed to. That sounds like cheating. It's survival. He let go of her hand. The alphas will cheat. Seraphine will cheat. Everyone will bend the rules as far as they can. You need to do the same. I don't know how to cheat. Then learn. Fast. He stood. Go get some sleep. Tomorrow, we start your real training. Elara walked back to her quarters, her mind spinning. Marcus fell into step beside her silently. When she reached her door, she stopped. Marcus? Yes? If I die during the trial, what happens to you? I get assigned to a different noble, probably someone boring. He paused. Don't die. I'll try. Try harder. She went inside. Sarah was waiting with tea and worried eyes. I heard what happened at dinner, Sarah said. The whole castle is talking about it. Of course they are. Some people think you're incredibly brave. Others think you've lost your mind. Both are probably true. Elara sank into a chair. Sarah, can I ask you something personal? Anything. Why are you helping me? Really? You could get hurt just by association. Sarah was quiet for a moment. My sister died 3 years ago. She was a servant in Lord Thornfield's household. He got drunk one night and... Her voice broke. He killed her. By accident, he said. And nothing happened to him. Because she was human and he was noble, and that's just how things work. Elara's chest tightened. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Be angry. And if you somehow survive this, if you somehow become Luna, change things. Make it so that humans matter, so that girls like my sister don't die for nothing. I don't know if I can. You can try. That's more than anyone else has done. Sarah handed her the tea. Now drink this and get some sleep. You have a long week ahead. Elara drank. Tried to sleep. Failed. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the trial. Saw herself failing, dying, proving everyone right. Around midnight, she gave up and went to the window. The moon was nearly full. In 6 days, it would be complete. In 6 days, everything would be decided. She pressed her hand against the cold glass and watched the kingdom sleep below. Somewhere out there, people were living normal lives, going to bed, waking up, existing without the weight of a throne trying to crush them. She missed that, missed being invisible, but she couldn't go back. The bond hummed in her chest. Darian was still awake too. She could feel his presence like a constant warmth. On impulse, she reached out through the bond. Not taking, not giving, just touching. For a second, nothing happened. Then she felt him respond, a pulse of warmth that said, I'm here. It should have been terrifying, this connection to a man she barely knew. Instead, it was the only thing keeping her sane. She pulled her hand back from the window, turned around, and saw the note on her bed. It hadn't been there before. She was sure of it. Elara picked it up with shaking hands. The handwriting was elegant, expensive. The throne chose wrong. Withdraw before the trial, or I'll make sure you don't survive it. This is your only warning. No signature. Elara's first instinct was to call Marcus. Show him the note. Let him investigate. Her second instinct. She walked to the fireplace and threw the note in, watched it burn to ash. Bring it, she whispered to whoever had sent it. I'm not going anywhere. The next 5 days were hell. Kira worked her until she couldn't stand, then worked her harder. Combat drills until her muscles screamed, strategy sessions until her head pounded, learning to read opponents, to anticipate, to kill. You're too hesitant, Kira said on day 4, after Elara had pulled a strike that could have ended the match. In the trial, hesitation gets you killed. I don't want to hurt anyone. Then you'll die. Kira stepped closer. Listen to me. The warriors you'll face, they won't hesitate. They'll come at you with everything they have. And unless you're willing to do the same, you're dead. I'm not a killer? Then become one. For 3 challenges. That's all you need. Kira's eyes were fierce. You think you're too good for violence? You're not. You're just scared. And that's fine. But channel that fear into something useful. That night, Darian taught her more about the bond. How to shield herself from his emotions. How to draw on his strength when hers ran out. How to send him messages without words. The bond is strongest during moments of intense emotion, he explained. Fear, anger, pain. If you're in trouble during the trial, reach for me. I can't interfere directly, but I can give you strength. Won't the alphas notice? Probably, but there's no rule against it. The bond is part of you now. Using it is fair game. On day 5, Lady Constance drilled her on politics. The 3rd challenge will be political, she said. Darian will design it to test your judgment. He'll give you an impossible choice and watch to see what you do. What should I do? That depends on the choice. But remember, Eluna isn't just strong. She's wise. She thinks of the kingdom first, her own survival second. That's asking me to die. That's asking you to lead. Lady Constance's expression softened slightly. Strength can be learned. Wisdom cannot. You either have it or you don't. And I think, despite everything, you might. On day 6, the day before the trial, Elara woke up to find her room full of people. Sarah, Marcus, Kira, Lady Constance, even Miri, who she hadn't seen in weeks. What's going on? She asked. We're your war council, Kira said, and we're going to make sure you survive tomorrow. They spent the entire day preparing. Strategy sessions, mock challenges, contingency plans for every possible scenario. If it's a straight fight, go for the legs, Kira said. Most warriors protect their upper body, but leave their legs vulnerable. If it's a puzzle, don't overthink it, Lady Constance added. The answer is usually simpler than you think. And if it's a political choice, Miri said quietly, choose the people. Always the people. That's what a real Luna does. By nightfall, Elara's head was spinning with information. Get some sleep, Marcus said. Big day tomorrow. I don't think I can sleep. Then lie down and pretend. Your body needs rest. They filed out one by one. Sarah stayed last, helping her into a nightgown. You're going to be amazing, Sarah said. I know it. You can't know that. Yes, I can. Because you're still here, still fighting. That's more than most people would do. After Sarah left, Elara lay in the darkness and tried not to think about tomorrow. She failed spectacularly. Around midnight, her door opened. She sat up, ready to scream. Darian stepped inside. What are you doing here? She whispered. Couldn't sleep either. He sat on the edge of her bed. In the moonlight, he looked younger, more vulnerable. Tomorrow is going to be brutal. I know. I was going to say life-changing, one way or another. He looked at her. I need to tell you something about the 3rd challenge. I thought you couldn't tell me what it was. I can't, but I can tell you why I chose it. He paused. 6 years ago, Liana faced the trial of worth. Her 3rd challenge was to choose between saving me or saving a village. She chose the village, and it nearly killed her, but it proved she was worthy to be Luna, that she could put the kingdom before her own heart. What happened to the village? I saved it anyway, but she didn't know I would. She made the hard choice, and you want me to do the same. I want you to survive, but more than that. He stopped, started again. The throne chose you for a reason, and I think tomorrow we'll finally understand why. He stood to leave. Darian? Yes? If I don't make it, you will. But if I don't, thank you for giving me a chance. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he crossed back to her, leaned down, and pressed his forehead to hers. The bond flared between them, warm and fierce. Don't die, he whispered. Please. Then he was gone. Elara lay back down, her heart pounding. Tomorrow, the Luna Ball. Tomorrow, the trial. Tomorrow, everything ended or everything began. She touched the silver marks on her arm. They pulsed like a heartbeat. Don't let me down, she whispered to the throne that wasn't there. And deep in her bones, that voice answered one last time. Luna. Morning came too fast. Sarah arrived at dawn with the dress. Not a ball gown. Not yet. This was fighting gear. Leather and reinforced cloth designed to move and protect. Black with silver embroidery, the Luna's colors. The ball starts at sunset, Sarah explained as she helped Elara dress. But the trial begins at noon. You'll face all 3 challenges before the evening festivities. Festivities, right. Because nothing says party like watching someone fight for their life. That's pretty much exactly what it means, actually. They walked to the arena together, Marcus, Sarah, and Elara. The arena was behind the castle, a massive circular structure carved into the mountain itself. Ancient, predating even the throne. The stands were already filling with nobles and visitors. Hundreds of people, all here to watch her fail. Or succeed. Probably fail. At the center of the arena stood Darian. He wore ceremonial armor, black metal with silver wolves. He looked like war incarnate. Around him stood the 3 alphas who'd chosen the challenges. Ronan, Vera, and Marcus. Elara walked to the center. The crowd went silent. Luna Elara Vance, Darian's voice carried across the arena. You stand accused of being unworthy. The throne chose you, but these alphas demand proof. Do you accept the trial of worth? I do. Then let it begin. Alpha Ronan, your challenge. Ronan stepped forward. Combat. You'll face my best warrior. If you survive 10 minutes, you pass. A gate opened. A woman walked out, tall, scarred, carrying a sword that looked like it weighed as much as Elara. Her name is Astrid, Ronan said. She's killed 63 opponents in the arena. Good luck. Elara drew her own sword. It felt too light, too inadequate. Astrid smiled. Nothing personal, little human. Orders are orders. Then she attacked. The first blow nearly broke Elara's arm. She blocked, barely, and staggered back. The crowd roared. Astrid didn't give her time to recover. She came at Elara like a storm, fast, brutal, relentless. Every strike was meant to kill. Elara blocked, dodged, survived. But barely. 2 minutes in, she was bleeding from a cut on her shoulder. 3 minutes, and her sword flew from her hand. The crowd was screaming. Elara couldn't tell if they were cheering for her or against her. Astrid raised her sword for the killing blow, and Elara remembered Kira's words. Go for the legs. She dove forward, under the strike, and slammed her shoulder into Astrid's knee. Something cracked. Astrid went down with a scream. Elara grabbed her fallen sword, rolled to her feet, and pressed the blade to Astrid's throat. Yield, she gasped. Astrid stared at her, then laughed. I yield. The arena exploded with noise. 10 minutes, Ronan called out. He didn't sound disappointed. If anything, he sounded impressed. She passes. Alpha Vera, your turn. Vera stepped forward, her amber eyes gleaming with something that looked like hunger. She wore white today, stark against the dark stone of the arena. It made her look like a ghost. The second challenge, she announced, her voice carrying across the crowd, is a test of will. Elara's shoulder was still bleeding from Astrid's blade. She pressed her hand against the wound, felt the warmth of her own blood. The silver marks beneath her skin pulsed in response. What kind of test? She asked. Vera smiled. The kind that breaks minds, not bodies. She gestured, and 2 guards brought forward a wooden chair. Simple, unadorned. They set it in the center of the arena. Sit. Elara didn't move. Why? Because I said so. Or do you forfeit? The crowd murmured, waiting, watching. Elara walked to the chair and sat down. The wood was rough under her hands. Vera circled her slowly, like a predator assessing prey. The test is simple. You will sit in this chair for 1 hour. You may not move. You may not speak. And you will experience every fear you've ever had, every doubt, every moment of weakness, all at once. How? Magic, child. Old magic. The kind your human blood has no defense against. Vera placed her hand on Elara's shoulder. Most people break in 10 minutes. The strong ones last 20. No one has ever completed the full hour. What happens if I move? You fail, and the bond breaks. Vera's fingers tightened. Are you ready? No. Yes. Vera's hand began to glow. Silver light, not like the throne's fire, but colder, sharper. The light spread from her hand into Elara's body, and then the world disappeared. She was 8 years old, standing over her mother's grave, alone. So small and so alone. The other servants were already walking away. No one cared. No one stayed. You're nothing, a voice whispered. Her mother's voice. You'll always be nothing. No, that wasn't real. Her mother never said. The scene shifted. She was in the scullery. Miri was screaming at her for breaking a plate. Useless! You're useless! Why did I even take you in? Not real. Miri had never. Shift. The throne room. But wrong. Darian stood beside Seraphine, their hands joined. The throne blazed silver behind them. Did you really think I wanted you? Darian's voice was cold, empty. You were convenient, a tool, nothing more. The bond in her chest went silent, dead. Elara tried to move, couldn't. The chair held her like iron. Another shift, the arena. But she was lying on the ground, bleeding. Astrid's sword was through her chest. The crowd was cheering. She failed, Thornfield's voice, just like we knew she would. Weak, Seraphine said, so pathetically weak. The pain felt real. The blood looked real. Everything was real, and nothing was real. And she couldn't tell the difference anymore. Time stopped meaning anything. Minutes or hours or days, she didn't know. Each scene was worse than the last. Each fear more visceral. She saw herself failing the trial, dying in a dozen different ways. Saw Darian choosing someone else. Saw the common people spitting on her name. Saw Sarah's sister dying over and over while she stood frozen, unable to help. She saw every moment of her life where she'd been invisible. Every insult, every slight, every time someone had looked through her like she didn't exist. You're nothing, the voices chanted. Nothing, nothing, nothing. Her body screamed to move, to run, to escape. The vision shifted again. This time she saw the future, or a future. Herself standing over bodies. Sarah, Marcus, Miri, all dead because she'd been too weak to protect them. This is what happens when servants try to be queens, Seraphine's voice echoed. Everyone around them dies. Elara felt tears on her face. When had she started crying? Stop, she tried to say, but her mouth wouldn't move. Another vision, the throne room, burning, the castle collapsing, the kingdom in ruins, all because she'd touched something she had no right to touch. You destroyed everything, Darian's voice broken with grief. I should have rejected you when I had the chance. No, that wasn't. But what if it was? What if everyone was right? What if she was too weak, too human, too nothing to be Luna? The doubt crept in like poison, spreading through her veins, choking her. Maybe she should give up. Maybe she should move. End this. Accept that she wasn't meant for this. It would be easier. It would be safer. It would be wrong. The thought came from somewhere deep, somewhere the visions couldn't reach. This was exactly what Vera wanted, to make her doubt herself so completely that she broke. But Elara had spent 10 years doubting herself, 10 years being told she was nothing, 10 years accepting it, and she was done. Somewhere under the fear and the pain and the crushing weight of doubt, she found something else. Anger, pure, clean, righteous anger. At Vera for putting her through this. At the nobles for thinking she wasn't good enough. At a system that measured worth in bloodlines instead of character. At herself for almost believing them. The anger burned through the fear like fire through paper. And as it burned, she felt something else. The bond. Still there. Still alive. Darian's presence like a heartbeat in the darkness. She reached for it, not to draw strength. She'd been doing that wrong. Lady Constance had said it. A Luna thinks of others first. So instead of taking, she gave. She pushed her anger into the bond, her defiance, her absolute refusal to break, and felt Darian's shock ripple back to her. Then something else. Recognition. Pride. And a surge of strength that wasn't hers but became hers the moment he offered it. The visions shattered. Elara opened her eyes. She was still in the chair. Vera stood in front of her, eyes wide. Sweat beaded on the Alpha's forehead. How long? Elara's voice was hoarse. 58 minutes. I'm not done yet. Vera's mouth opened, closed. What? You said 1 hour. It's been 58 minutes. Elara met her eyes. I'm finishing this. The crowd was silent, completely silent. Vera's hand was still glowing. She could have stopped, probably should have stopped. Instead, she smiled. Very well. The last 2 minutes were agony. Not from the visions, those were gone, but from the simple act of sitting still while her body screamed to move, every muscle locked, every nerve on fire. Her shoulder throbbed where Astrid had cut her. Her legs had gone numb. Her back felt like it might snap. But she didn't move. She counted the seconds in her head. 120 of them, each one an eternity. Through the bond, she felt Darian's presence, not interfering, just there, a constant reminder that she wasn't alone. 90 seconds left, 60, 30, 10. When Vera finally removed her hand, Elara's whole body was shaking. 1 hour, Vera announced. Her voice carried something new, respect. She passes. The crowd erupted. Not all cheering, some were angry, some confused, but the noise was deafening. Elara tried to stand. Her legs buckled. Hands caught her. Darian, when had he gotten there? I've got you, he said quietly. Through the bond, she felt his emotions, relief, pride, fear, something else she couldn't name. I'm okay, she lied. No, you're not, but you will be. He helped her straighten, steadied her. Can you stand for one more challenge? I have to, don't I? Yes. His jaw tightened. I'm sorry. If I could... You can't. I know. She pulled away from him, forced herself to stand on her own. Her legs shook but held. What's the third challenge? You'll see. He stepped back, his expression going neutral. The king again, not the man. Alpha Marcus has withdrawn his challenge. As the hosting Alpha, I'll present the third test myself. Marcus stepped forward from where he'd been standing with the other Alphas. I was going to test her combat skills again, have her fight 3 opponents at once, but after watching her defeat Astrid and survive Vera's torture, he shook his head. She's already proven herself to me. I won't waste everyone's time. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. An Alpha withdrawing his challenge was rare, almost unheard of. Darian nodded once. Then we proceed to the final test. He raised his voice. Bring in the accused. Guards appeared at the arena gates, dragging 2 people between them, a man and a woman, both in chains, both human. Their clothes were ragged, their faces bruised. Elara's stomach dropped. Luna Elara, Darian said, his voice formal and cold. These 2 individuals stand accused of treason against the crown. The man, Thomas Gray, is accused of stealing food from the royal stores to feed his starving village. The woman, Margaret Stone, is accused of speaking against the throne in public, claiming that the king is unfit to rule. He paused. Let the words sink in. The law is clear. Treason is punishable by death. As Luna, you must pass judgment. What is your verdict? No. This was the test. The impossible choice. Elara looked at the 2 prisoners. Thomas was young, maybe 20, with hollow eyes and a gaunt face. His wrists were raw from the chains. Margaret was older, gray-haired, her expression defiant even in chains. There was a cut above her left eye, still bleeding. May I speak to them? Elara asked. You may. She approached Thomas first, her legs still unsteady. Up close, she could see he was trembling, scared. "Did you steal the food?" she asked. "Yes." His voice was barely a whisper. "My village. We're in the northern mountains. The winter was harsh. The crops failed. The nobles who own our land, they took their taxes anyway. Took everything. Children were dying. I didn't know what else to do." "Did you know it was treason?" "Yes, but I'd rather die than watch children starve." He met her eyes. "I'd do it again." Elara felt something twist in her chest. She'd seen hungry children in the castle kitchens. Servants' kids, thin and desperate. She'd shared her own food with them more times than she could count. She moved to Margaret. "Did you speak against the king?" "I did." Margaret's voice was stronger, harder. No fear there, just anger. "I said he's too soft on the nobles, that he lets them abuse common folk without consequence, that he's more concerned with politics than people." "You think that's true?" "I think a good king would have fixed these problems years ago. But he's too busy playing their games." She looked at Darian. "No offense, Your Majesty, but it's the truth." "And yet you're in chains for speaking it," Elara said. "Better chains than silence." Elara turned back to Darian. The crowd was watching, waiting. She could feel their judgment like a physical weight. This was it. The test Lady Constance had warned her about. Choose the law, prove she could rule with strength. Choose mercy, prove she was too weak to make hard decisions. The law was clear. Treason meant death, 2 executions. Simple. Except it wasn't simple. Because Thomas had stolen to save lives. And Margaret had spoken truth, however uncomfortable. Executing them would prove she could make hard choices, would earn respect from the nobles who valued law over compassion. But it would also prove she was just like them. Just another ruler who protected power at the expense of people. Through the bond, she felt Darian watching her, waiting to see who she really was. There was no right answer, only choices and consequences. "Your Majesty," she said, her voice carrying across the arena, "I have questions about the law." Darian's expression didn't change. "Ask them." "The law says treason is punishable by death. But who defines treason? Who wrote this law? And who does it protect?" Murmurs from the crowd. Seraphine was on her feet, looking furious. "The law protects the kingdom," Thornfield called out. "Without law, there's chaos." "Does it?" Elara looked at Thomas, at Margaret. "Or does it protect the powerful from the consequences of their cruelty?" "You dare question centuries of tradition?" Another noble, someone Elara didn't recognize. "I dare question laws that punish survival, that criminalize truth." She turned back to Darian. "You want my judgment? Here it is. These 2 are guilty under current law. I don't dispute that. But the law itself is wrong." The arena exploded with noise. People shouting, arguing. Seraphine was screaming something Elara couldn't hear. Darian held up his hand. The crowd fell silent, though the anger in the air was palpable. "Explain," he said. "Thomas Gray stole food, but why was his village starving in the first place? Because nobles took too much in taxes, because the system allows it. The crime isn't theft, it's the starvation that forced him to steal." She looked at the crowd. "If we execute him for trying to save children, we're not upholding justice. We're protecting the people who created the problem." "And the woman?" Darian asked. "Margaret Stone spoke against the throne, called you weak, said you ignore the suffering of common people." Elara paused. Was she wrong? The question hung in the air. "You ask me to judge her for speaking truth? Then you better judge every noble in this arena who's ever complained about your policies. Every alpha who's questioned your decisions. Because if criticism is treason, half the kingdom is guilty." Darian's eyes were unreadable. "What would you have me do?" "Change the law. Make it fair. Make it just." She straightened her shoulders. "You said this kingdom is dying, that the old ways are failing. This is why. Because the laws protect the wrong people. And what is your judgment on these 2? His voice was quiet, dangerous. Elara took a breath. This was it. The moment that would define everything. Thomas Gray is guilty of theft, but his crime was born of desperation, not malice. I sentence him to community service. He'll work to improve the food distribution system so no village starves again. He'll help create emergency stores for harsh winters. He'll ensure what happened to his village never happens to another. She moved to Margaret. Margaret Stone is guilty of speaking against the throne. But her words, while harsh, aren't without merit. I sentence her to a position on a new council, one that gives common people a voice in court decisions. She'll speak for those who can't speak for themselves. Legally this time. The arena exploded. People were shouting, arguing. Some were on their feet, screaming. Others looked shocked into silence. Thornfield's face was purple. This is madness. You can't just ignore the law. I'm not ignoring it. I'm fixing it. You have no authority. The throne gave her authority, Darian said quietly, but his voice cut through the noise. She is Luna. Her judgment stands. But your majesty, her judgment stands. Darian looked at Elara. Unless you reject it? This was the trap. He was giving her a way out. She could back down, could say she was just making a point, could choose the safer path. I don't reject it, she said. The law needs to change. And if I'm Luna, changing it is my job. The Darian stared at her for a long moment. Through the bond, she felt him. Surprise, admiration, fear, and something that might have been love. Then he smiled. I accept your judgment. He looked at the crowd. Luna Elara has passed the trial of worth. All 3 challenges are complete. The throne's choice is validated. For a second, nothing happened. Then someone in the crowd started clapping. A single person. Elara couldn't see who. Then another joined. Then more. Not everyone. Seraphine sat frozen, her face white with rage. Thornfield looked like he'd swallowed poison. Half the nobles looked furious. But the other half, and most of the common folk in the cheaper seats, were clapping. Some were even cheering. The guards removed Thomas's and Margaret's chains. Both of them stared at Elara like she'd grown wings. Thank you, Thomas whispered. Thank you. Margaret just nodded, but her eyes were wet. Elara's legs finally gave out. She hit the ground hard, her vision swimming. Sarah was there instantly, Marcus right behind her. You did it, Sarah was crying, actually crying. You actually did it. I'm going to throw up, Elara said. Later. Right now you need medical attention. Sarah looked at her shoulder. You're still bleeding. Marcus scooped her up before she could protest. I've got her. Clear the way. The crowd parted as he carried her out of the arena. The last thing Elara saw before the world went fuzzy was Darian, standing alone in the center of the arena, watching her leave. Through the bond, she felt his pride, his fear, his absolute certainty that everything had just changed. She woke up in her quarters. Someone had cleaned and bandaged her wounds, changed her into a nightgown. The sun was lower. She'd been unconscious for hours. Sarah sat beside the bed, reading. She looked up when Elara stirred. Welcome back. How long was I out? 3 hours. The physician said you were exhausted, and you lost more blood than we thought. Sarah set down her book. The ball starts in 1 hour. The what? The Luna ball. The actual ball. With dancing and politics and... She stopped. Did you think the trial was the whole thing? Kind of? Oh no, the trial proves you're worthy. The ball is where you officially take your place. Meet the important people. Start building alliances. Sarah stood. Which means we need to get you ready. Now. The next hour was chaos. Sarah and 3 other attendants descended on her. They rebandaged her shoulder properly. Forced her to eat something, bread and cheese, simple but necessary. Then came the dress. It was silver, pure silver fabric that caught the light like liquid metal. The neckline was high enough to cover her bandages, the sleeves long enough to hide most of her bruises. But somehow it didn't feel restrictive. It felt like armor. It was Queen Liana's wedding dress, Sarah said softly as she fastened the back. The king had it altered for you. Elara stared at her reflection. She looked like someone else, someone powerful, someone who'd just rewritten law in front of the entire court, someone who'd survived. I can't wear this. You have to. It's tradition. The Luna wears silver to her first ball. Sarah placed the Luna's necklace around her throat. Then she did something with Elara's hair, pulled it up, wove in silver ribbons that matched the dress. There, perfect. I don't feel perfect. I feel like I'm going to pass out again. That's also tradition, apparently. Sarah stepped back, examining her work. You look like a queen, Elara. I'm not a queen. Not yet. But you will be. Sarah's eyes were serious. What you did today, the judgment you passed, people are talking about it. Some are angry, but others, she paused. Others are hopeful. For the first time in years, a knock on the door. Marcus's voice. It's time. Elara took a deep breath. Her shoulder ached. Her whole body felt like one giant bruise. But she could stand. She could walk. She could do this. Okay, let's go. The ballroom was massive, bigger than the dining hall, bigger than the arena. Chandeliers dripping with crystals hung from a ceiling so high it disappeared into shadow. Musicians in the corner played something elegant and complex. Tables laden with food and wine lined the walls. And people. So many people. Every noble in the kingdom seemed to be here, plus the visiting alphas and their entourages, plus wealthy merchants, influential traders, anyone with enough power to matter. Hundreds of eyes turned to watch as Elara entered. Darian stood at the far end of the room, near a raised platform. He'd changed too. Black formal wear with silver embroidery that matched her dress exactly. He looked like a king from a legend. Their eyes met across the room. He crossed to her. The crowd parted for him like water. He held out his hand. May I have this dance, Luna? She took his hand. The bond flared warm between them, almost comfortable now. He led her to the center of the floor. The music shifted, something slow and elegant that Elara vaguely recognized from lessons with Lady Constance. I don't know if I remember how to dance, she whispered. I'll lead. Just follow. Try not to faint. No promises. He pulled her into the proper position, one hand at her waist, the other holding hers. They began to move. Somehow, she managed not to step on his feet. You were magnificent today, he said quietly, his voice meant only for her. I was terrified. That too, but you didn't let it stop you. He spun her gently, carefully avoiding her injured shoulder. Your judgment, what you did for Thomas and Margaret, it was perfect. It was risky. It was right. That's what the throne saw in you. The ability to choose what's right over what's easy. He pulled her closer. Half the court wants you dead now, you know. Only half. I'm impressed. Usually it's more like 70%. He almost laughed, actually smiled. The other half thinks you might be the best thing to happen to this kingdom in generations. And you? What do you think? I think, he paused. Through the bond, she felt something shift, something warm and terrifying and completely unexpected. I think the throne knew exactly what it was doing when it chose you. The dance ended. Applause rippled through the crowd, genuine this time, not just polite. Then another alpha approached, Ronan. May I cut in, Your Majesty? Darian nodded and stepped back, though his hand lingered on hers for a moment longer than necessary. Ronan was a surprisingly good dancer, strong and sure, guiding her through the steps with military precision. You impressed me today, he said. I didn't think you'd survive the first challenge, let alone all three. Thanks for the vote of confidence. I'm honest, not encouraging. But I'll admit when I'm wrong. You're stronger than you look. He paused. What you did with those prisoners, that took courage. Stupidity, maybe, but courage. Stupidity and courage are often the same thing. He laughed. True enough. The North has been watching this kingdom carefully. We weren't sure about Darian's leadership, but you... He paused. You might be exactly what this place needs, someone who remembers what it's like to be powerless. And if I fail... You won't. You're too stubborn. He spun her once and passed her to the next alpha, Marcus from the south. You made an enemy today, Marcus said as they danced. Seraphine hasn't stopped glaring at you since the trial ended. I noticed. Watch your back. She's dangerous when she's cornered. And you just cornered her in front of the entire kingdom. Everyone keeps warning me about her. Because everyone knows what she's capable of. He glanced over her shoulder. Speaking of which, incoming. Seraphine appeared at Marcus's elbow. My turn, I think. Marcus looked at Elara. She nodded, even though the last thing she wanted was to dance with Seraphine. Dancing with Seraphine was like dancing with a knife. Every movement was precise, controlled, deadly. "Congratulations," Seraphine said. Her smile was poison. "You survived." "Thanks." "Don't thank me. I voted against you on all 3 challenges. I wanted you to fail. To die, preferably." "I know. And I'll keep voting against you every chance I get until you fail, because you will fail eventually. Everyone does." "Maybe, but not today." Seraphine's grip tightened, her nails digging into Elara's hand. "You think you've won? This was just the beginning. The real test is ruling, making decisions that get people killed, living with those deaths. You have no idea what's coming." "Then I'll learn." "You can't learn fast enough." Seraphine leaned closer, her voice dropping. "I'm going to destroy you. Not today. Maybe not tomorrow. But soon. And when I do, everyone will see that the throne made a mistake, that humans don't belong here." "Maybe you're right," Elara said quietly. "Maybe I will fail. Maybe I'll make terrible mistakes. But at least I'll try to do better, to change things." "What are you trying to do? Besides hold on to power you were never given?" Seraphine's face went very still. For a moment, Elara thought she might actually attack her right there on the dance floor. Instead, she smiled. "We'll see who's still standing when this is over." The music ended. Seraphine stepped back, gave a mocking curtsy, and disappeared into the crowd. Elara found herself standing alone in the middle of the dance floor, her heart pounding. People were staring, whispering. Then someone else walked toward her. Lord Thornfield. "Oh no." He stopped in front of her. For a long moment, he just stared. Elara braced herself for an insult, a threat, something. Instead, he bowed, actually bowed. "Luna Elara, I was wrong about you." She blinked. "What?" "I said you weren't worthy, that the throne made a mistake, that a human had no business standing beside the king." He straightened. "I was wrong. Your judgment today, it was wise, fair, exactly what this kingdom needs." "I thank you?" "Don't thank me. I'm still not happy about it. I still think you're too young, too inexperienced, too human." He paused. "But you have courage, and you have integrity. That's more than most nobles can claim, so prove me right. Rule well. Make the hard choices. Don't let them break you." "I'll try." That's all anyone can do. He turned and walked away. Elara stood frozen, trying to process what just happened. More nobles approached, some to congratulate her, some to test her with subtle questions about policy and alliances, some just to be seen talking to her, to hedge their bets in case she actually succeeded. She handled them as best she could, remembering everything Lady Constance had taught her. Smile. Listen. Don't commit to anything you're not ready to enforce. The hours blurred together, dancing and politics and endless conversations. Her shoulder throbbed, her feet hurt, but she kept going. Finally, near midnight, Darian found her again. "Come with me," he said quietly. "You need a break." He led her out of the ballroom, through corridors, upstairs. They climbed until they reached a balcony she'd never seen before, high above the castle, overlooking the entire kingdom. The moon was full, perfect in silver, just like her dress. "This is where I come when I need to think," Darian said, "when the crown gets too heavy." "Does it get heavy often?" "Every day?" He leaned against the railing, looking out at the sleeping kingdom. 6 years I've ruled alone. 6 years of fighting the council, the nobles, the old ways. Sometimes I wondered if it was worth it, if anything would ever change. And now? Now I know it will. Because you're here and you're going to help me tear down everything that's broken and build something better. Elara joined him at the railing. The city lights spread below them like fallen stars. That's a lot of faith to put in someone who was scrubbing floors 2 weeks ago. "The throne doesn't make mistakes." He looked at her, his eyes reflecting the moonlight. "And neither do I. Not about this." The bond hummed between them, warm and alive and somehow right. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now you become Luna, officially. Tomorrow, there's a coronation ceremony. You'll take the oath, bind yourself to the throne and the kingdom forever." Forever is a long time. Yes. He reached for her hand. The silver marks on both their arms glowed in the moonlight, perfectly matched. "Are you ready?" She looked out at the kingdom, at the lights of the city below, at the forest and the mountains and the vast dark sky full of stars. Somewhere down there, people were sleeping, dreaming, living lives that would be affected by every decision she made from now on. Thomas would wake up tomorrow with hope instead of chains. Margaret would have a voice. And maybe, just maybe, other people would start to believe that things could change. It was terrifying. It was overwhelming. It was exactly what the throne had chosen her for. "I'm ready," she said. And this time, it wasn't a lie. Darian squeezed her hand. Through the bond, she felt everything he couldn't say out loud. The relief, the hope, the bone-deep fear that this fragile thing they were building could still shatter. "The coronation is at dawn," he said, in the throne room. "Just you, me, and the throne. No audience, no performance, just the oath." "Why no audience?" "Because what happens between you and the throne is sacred, private. The bond is already formed, but the oath seals it, makes it permanent." He paused. "After that, you can never go back to being human, not fully. The throne will change you." "Change me how?" "You'll live longer, heal faster. The silver marks will become permanent. They'll never fade, even with gloves." His thumb traced the marks on her hand. "And you'll feel the kingdom, every person in it, their pain, their joy, their fear. It's overwhelming at first." Sounds terrible. It is, but it's also the only way to truly rule, to know what your people need. He looked at her. "Are you sure?" She thought about Thomas, who'd stolen to save children, about Margaret, who'd spoken truth and been punished for it, about Sarah's sister, dead because a noble got drunk and no one cared, about 10 years of being invisible, of watching people suffer while those in power did nothing. "I'm sure." They stood on the balcony in silence, watching the kingdom sleep. Somewhere a wolf howled. Others answered. "You should rest," Darian said finally. "Dawn comes early." "I won't be able to sleep." "Try anyway." He started toward the door, then stopped. "Elara?" "Yes?" "Thank you for not giving up, for being exactly what this kingdom needed, even when none of us knew we needed it." Then he was gone. Elara stayed on the balcony for a while longer. The night air was cold, but she didn't mind. The pain in her shoulder had dulled to a manageable ache. Her whole body felt like it had been through a war, which, in a way, it had. She touched the Luna's necklace at her throat. Tomorrow, she'd swear an oath that would bind her to this kingdom forever. No going back. No escape. The smart thing would be to run, to take the exit they'd given her and disappear into obscurity. But Elara had spent 10 years being smart, being invisible, being safe. She was done with safe. When she finally returned to her quarters, Sarah was waiting with tea and worried eyes. "You should be asleep," Sarah said. "So should you. Someone has to make sure you don't do anything stupid, like try to run away before the coronation." The thought never crossed my mind. "Liar." Sarah handed her the tea. "Drink this. It'll help you sleep." Elara drank. It tasted like honey and something herbal she couldn't identify. Within minutes, her eyelids grew heavy. "Sarah?" "Thank you for believing in me when no one else did." "Someone had to." Sarah helped her into bed. "Now sleep. Big day tomorrow." Elara closed her eyes, and for the first time in weeks, she didn't dream of failing. Someone was shaking her awake. Elara opened her eyes to darkness. Not quite night, not quite morning, the space between. "It's time," Sarah whispered. Elara sat up, her body protesting. Every muscle ached, but she pushed through it, let Sarah help her dress. Not the silver gown from the ball. This was simpler, a white dress, unadorned except for silver embroidery at the hem and sleeves. The Luna's necklace. No gloves this time. The silver marks on her arms were visible, glowing faintly in the pre-dawn darkness. "You look like a bride," Sarah said softly. "I feel like a sacrifice." "Maybe it's the same thing." Marcus was waiting outside. He didn't say anything, just fell into step beside her as they walked through the empty corridors. The throne room was dark except for candles. Hundreds of them, placed around the bone throne. The flames cast dancing shadows on the walls. Darian stood beside the throne, wearing ceremonial robes, black with silver wolves. He looked like a priest, or an executioner. "Luna Elara," he said formally. "Approach the throne." Elara walked forward. Her footsteps echoed in the vast, empty room. When she reached the throne, she stopped. Up close, the throne was even more imposing. White bone fused into impossible shapes, ancient beyond measure, and somehow alive. She could feel it watching her. "Kneel," Darian said. She knelt on the cold stone floor. Darian placed his hand on the throne. It blazed silver, brighter than the candles. The light spread from his hand down through the bone, illuminating patterns she'd never noticed before. Wolves running, moons rising and falling. The history of every Luna who'd ever knelt here. "The oath is simple," Darian said, "but once spoken, it cannot be broken. Do you understand?" "Yes." "Then repeat after me." He paused. "I, Elara Vance, chosen of the throne. I, Elara Vance, chosen of the throne, do swear to serve this kingdom above all else. Do swear to serve this kingdom above all else. To protect its people, noble and common alike. To protect its people, noble and common alike. To rule with wisdom, courage, and compassion. To rule with wisdom, courage, and compassion. To stand beside the Alpha King as his equal and his conscience. To stand beside the Alpha King as his equal and his conscience. Until death claims me or the throne releases me. Until death claims me or the throne releases me. This I swear on my blood and my soul. This I swear on my blood and my soul." The moment the words left her mouth, the throne exploded with silver fire. It shot through Elara like lightning. She screamed, couldn't help it, as power flooded her veins. The silver marks on her arms blazed white-hot, spreading. Up her shoulders, across her chest, down her spine. She felt the kingdom, all of it, every person, every heartbeat, every fear and hope and dream. It was too much, too big, too overwhelming. She was drowning in it. "Breathe," Darian's voice close to her ear, his hands on her shoulders. "Breathe through it. Let it settle." She tried, failed. Tried again. Slowly, so slowly, the chaos began to organize itself. The individual heartbeats became a rhythm. The fears and hopes became a pattern. The kingdom wasn't trying to drown her, it was trying to connect. She stopped fighting it, let it in, and felt everything shift. The fire faded. Elara opened her eyes. She was still kneeling, but something fundamental had changed. The throne felt warm under her hands, welcoming. "Stand," Darian said. She stood, her legs held. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Like I can hear the whole kingdom breathing." "You can. That's the bond. It'll fade to background noise eventually, but it never completely goes away." He studied her face. "Your eyes are different." "Different how?" "Silver. Like the marks." He paused. "You're not fully human anymore, Elara. The throne took that from you." She should have been scared, should have mourned the loss. Instead, she felt right. Like pieces that had never quite fit were finally clicking into place. "I can feel you," she said, "through the bond. But it's different now, stronger. That's because the oath completed it. We're bound permanently. What I feel, you feel. What happens to one of us affects the other." He took her hand. "Are you okay with that? Do I have a choice?" "Not really." "Then I guess I better get used to it." She looked at the throne. The silver fire had faded, but she could still feel its presence. Watching, approving. "What happens now?" "Now we face the real challenges. The nobles who want you dead. The laws that need changing. The kingdom that needs healing." He pulled something from his pocket. A ring. Silver, with a wolf carved into it. "This was Liana's. It marks you as Luna, as my equal in rule." He slid it onto her finger. It fit perfectly. "The council meets this afternoon," he continued. "They'll try to block every reform you proposed. They'll fight you on Thomas and Margaret. They'll do everything in their power to prove you're not worthy." "Let them try." "You say that now. Wait until you're sitting in a room full of angry nobles who've spent their entire lives believing humans are beneath them. I've spent my entire life in rooms full of people who thought I was beneath them. At least now I can fight back." He almost smiled. Fair point. He offered his arm. Come on, we should eat something before the battle begins. They left the throne room together. The sun was rising, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. A new day, a new beginning, or the start of the end, depending on who you asked. The council meeting started exactly at noon. Elara had spent the morning with Lady Constance preparing. They'll attack you on precedent, Lady Constance said. There's never been a human, Luna, never been someone who questioned the law so openly. They'll use that against you. What do I say? That precedent is just tradition wearing a fancy name, and tradition changes when it stops serving the people. She paused. But say it more diplomatically than that. The council chamber was smaller than Elara expected. A circular room with a round table, 12 seats for the council members, 2 elevated seats for the king and Luna. Every council member was already seated when Elara and Darien entered. Thornfield, Seraphine's father, Lord Blackmore, half a dozen other nobles whose names Elara had memorized but whose faces still blurred together. And Seraphine herself, seated in her father's shadow, eyes burning with hatred. Your Majesty, Luna Elara. Lord Blackmore inclined his head, barely. Shall we begin? They sat. Darien in his chair, Elara in hers, equal height, equal authority, at least in theory. The council has concerns, Blackmore continued, about yesterday's events. You mean the trial? Darien asked. We mean the judgment, the one that contradicts 300 years of law. The law was unjust, Elara said. I changed it. You don't have the authority to change law, another council member said. Lord something. Elara couldn't remember. Only the council can vote on new laws. The Luna has the authority to interpret law, Darien said calmly, and to show mercy where appropriate. That's been true since the first Luna sat beside the first king. Showing mercy is one thing, rewriting the definition of treason is another. I didn't rewrite anything, Elara said. I asked questions, like, is it treason to save children from starvation? Is it treason to criticize failures in governance? And if the answer is yes, then maybe the law needs examining. The law exists to protect order, Blackmore said. The law exists to protect people. When it stops doing that, it fails. Elara leaned forward. Thomas Gray stole food because children were starving. Why were they starving? Because nobles took too much in taxes and left nothing for emergencies. That's the real crime. But the law punishes Thomas and protects the nobles who caused the problem. You can't expect us to regulate every noble's tax collection. Why not? You regulate everything else. You have laws about what commoners can wear, what they can say, where they can go. But somehow you can't regulate whether nobles starve their own people? Silence. Margaret Stone spoke truth, Elara continued. Uncomfortable truth. And the law says that's treason. But half of you have complained about the king's policies to his face. Lord Thornfield, didn't you call His Majesty's trade reforms idiotic just last month? Thornfield flushed. That's different. How? How is your criticism different from hers, except that you're noble and she's not? Because I spoke in council, not in public. So it's only treason when common people hear it? When it might actually inspire change? Elara stood up. That's not law. That's control. And I won't enforce it. You don't get to decide what you will or won't enforce. Blackmore was on his feet too. You're Luna, not a dictator. Neither are you. Enough. Darien's voice cut through the argument. Both of you, sit down. They sat. Darien stood, his presence filling the room. Luna Elara is right. The law as written protects the powerful at the expense of the vulnerable. That needs to change. But Lord Blackmore is also right. We can't simply ignore laws we don't like. We need to change them properly. How? Elara asked. We form the council Luna Elara proposed, common people with real voices. They'll work with this council to review every law, identify what's unjust, and propose reforms. He looked around the table. Anyone who refuses to participate can resign from the council. I'll accept your resignation immediately. No one moved. Good. Then it's settled. The first meeting of the combined council will be in 1 week. Thomas Gray and Margaret Stone will lead the common representatives. He sat back down. Anything else? Blackmore looked like he'd swallowed glass. No, Your Majesty. Excellent. This meeting is adjourned. The council members filed out, most of them shooting Elara looks that ranged from disgust to grudging respect. Seraphine was last. She stopped beside Elara's chair. Enjoy your victory, she said quietly. It won't last. Is that a threat? It's a promise. Seraphine leaned closer. You think you've won because you survived the trial, because you passed some judgment that made the commoners love you? You haven't won anything. You've just painted a bigger target on your back. Then I guess we'll see who's the better shot. Seraphine smiled. I guess we will. Then she was gone. Elara sagged in her chair. That went well. Better than expected, actually, Darian said. I thought Blackmore might challenge you to a duel. Can he do that? Technically, yes. Any noble can challenge the Luna if they think she's unfit. You're telling me this now? You had enough to worry about. Besides, he won't. Not after you survived the trial. Darian stood, offered his hand. Come on, we have more work to do. The next week was exhausting. Elara met with Thomas and Margaret every day, helping them select representatives for the Common Council. She sat through endless meetings with nobles who tried to find loopholes in her judgment. She learned the intricacies of laws she'd never known existed. And every night, she collapsed into bed feeling like she'd run a marathon while carrying a mountain. But things were changing. Small things at first. The castle servants stopped avoiding her eyes, started greeting her in the hallways. One morning, she found flowers outside her door, wildflowers, the kind that grew in the forest. No note, just flowers. Sarah said it meant the common people were watching, hoping. On the 5th day, Marcus brought her news. There's been an incident, he said. His face was grim. What kind of incident? Lord Garrett, the one who spilled wine on you at the celebration. He beat one of his servants, nearly killed her. She's human. Elara's blood went cold. Where is she now? The infirmary. The physicians think she'll live, but... He paused. She's asking for you. Elara went immediately. The servant's name was Anna. She was young, maybe 16, with bruises covering her face and arms. Her left eye was swollen shut. Luna, she whispered when Elara entered. You came. Of course I came. Elara sat beside the bed. What happened? I broke a glass. Lord Garrett was drunk. Her voice broke. He said I did it on purpose, to embarrass him in front of guests. Did you? No, my hands were shaking. I was nervous. I didn't mean... She started crying. Elara took her hand gently. Through the bond, she could feel the girl's pain, her fear, her absolute certainty that nothing would be done because she was nothing. What's the old law say about this? Elara asked Marcus. Servants are property. Nobles can discipline them as they see fit. Short of killing them, there's no punishment. And the new law? There is no new law. Not yet. Then we make one. Now. Elara stood. Where's Lord Garrett? Probably in his quarters, sleeping it off. Get him. Bring him to the throne room. I don't care if you have to drag him. Elara? Marcus hesitated. Are you sure the council won't like... I don't care what they like. He beat a child. He's going to answer for it. An hour later, Lord Garrett stood before the throne, looking hungover and furious. The throne room was full. Word had spread fast. Nobles and servants alike crowded in to watch. Darian stood beside the throne. He'd let Elara take the lead on this, trusting her or testing her, maybe both. Lord Garrett, Elara said, you're accused of beating a servant in your employ. How do you plead? I don't plead anything. She broke my property. I disciplined her. That's my right. She's not property. She's a person. She's a servant, a human. Same thing. The casual cruelty in his voice made Elara's hands clench. The silver marks on her arms began to glow. Under the old law, you're right. Servants are considered property. You can beat them, starve them, work them to death. As long as you don't kill them, there's no consequence. She paused. But I'm changing that law right now, in front of witnesses. Gasps from the crowd. You can't, Garrett sputtered. I can. I'm Luna. The throne gives me the authority to protect the vulnerable from the powerful, and that's exactly what I'm doing. She looked at Darian. Your Majesty, I propose a new law. Any noble who harms a servant without just cause will be punished. First offense, public apology and restitution to the victim. Second offense, loss of title and lands. That's insane, Garrett shouted. Yes, you can't strip nobles of their titles for disciplining servants? I can if the discipline crosses into abuse. Elara turned to the crowd. How many of you have been beaten by your employers? Raise your hands. Slowly, hands went up, dozens of them, then more, nearly every servant in the room. And how many of you saw justice for it? The hands stayed up, but no one spoke. That's what I thought. Elara looked at Darian. The law needs to change. Will you support it? He was quiet for a long moment. Through the bond, she felt him weighing the cost. The nobles would revolt. The council would fight. But the servants, the common people, would finally see that someone cared. I support it, he said. The law is changed, effective immediately. The room erupted. Nobles shouting, servants cheering. Garrett's face turned purple with rage. You'll regret this, he screamed at Elara. Both of you. This is tyranny. No, Elara said quietly. This is justice. Finally. She looked at Marcus. Lord Garrett, you're hereby stripped of your title and lands. You have 1 week to leave the kingdom. If you're found here after that, you'll be imprisoned. You can't do this. I just did. Guards took him away, still screaming threats. The throne room slowly emptied, nobles leaving in angry clusters, servants leaving with something that looked like hope. When everyone was gone, Elara sat on the throne steps, exhausted. Darian sat beside her. That was risky. I know. Half the council is probably drafting your impeachment right now. I know that too. And you did it anyway. Had to. Anna's 16. She was terrified. She thought no one would care. Elara looked at her hands. The silver marks were still glowing faintly. If I'm Luna, I have to care. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. You're going to change this kingdom, Darian said. Whether it wants to change or not. Is that good or bad? Depends on who you ask. He stood, offered his hand. Come on, we have a coronation feast to attend. There's a feast? Did you think we'd let you become Luna without a celebration? The kitchen's been preparing for days. The feast was held in the great hall, tables laden with food, musicians playing, people dancing and drinking and celebrating. But it felt different from the ball, less formal, more genuine. Common people mixed with nobles. Not equally, not yet, but it was a start. Thomas and Margaret sat at the high table, still looking uncomfortable in their new roles, but trying. Anna was there too, her face still bruised, but smiling. Elara made her way through the crowd, accepting congratulations and deflecting subtle political questions. She danced with Ronan again, who told her the North was watching her reforms with great interest. She danced with Marcus, who warned her that change this fast could be dangerous. She danced with Darian last. Tired? He asked as they moved across the floor. Exhausted, but good exhausted. There's a difference? There is when you're exhausted from doing something that matters. She looked up at him. Thank you for trusting me, for letting me change things. I didn't let you do anything. You just did it. That's who you are. He pulled her closer. The throne knew. It chose someone who wouldn't just survive the system, someone who'd break it apart and build something better. I'm terrified I'll mess it up. You will. We both will. But we'll fix it together. He paused. That's what the bond means. We don't have to be perfect. We just have to try. The music ended. The feast continued. And somewhere in the middle of it all, Elara realized something. She was happy. Not because everything was perfect. It wasn't. Not because the fight was over. It had barely begun. But because for the first time in her life, she mattered. What she did mattered. The choices she made would ripple out and affect real people in real ways. It was terrifying. It was overwhelming. It was exactly where she was meant to be. Late that night, after the feast ended and the guests departed, Elara returned to her quarters. Sarah helped her out of the formal gown and into something comfortable. You did good today, Sarah said. Anna's already calling you her hero. I just did what anyone would do. No, you did what everyone should do but doesn't. There's a difference. Sarah finished brushing out Elara's hair. My sister would have loved you. Would have been so proud to see a Luna who actually cared. I wish I could have saved her. You can't save the past, but you can save the future. That's enough. After Sarah left, Elara stood at the window, looking out at the kingdom. The moon was waning now, no longer full, but still beautiful. The bond hummed in her chest. She reached out through it, found Darian somewhere else in the castle, sent him a pulse of warmth. Thank you? He sent back approval, pride, and something deeper, something that felt like love. Elara pulled her hand back, her heart racing. She wasn't ready for that. Wasn't sure she'd ever be ready. But maybe that was okay. Maybe love, like everything else, was something you learned as you went. She touched the silver marks on her arm. They'd stopped glowing, but were still there, permanent, a reminder of what she'd become. Not human, not quite wolf. Something in between, something new. The throne had chosen her when she was nothing, had given her power when she had none, had seen strength where everyone else saw weakness. And now she was Luna, permanently, irrevocably. For better or worse. The kingdom would fight her, the nobles would scheme, Seraphine would plot her downfall. But Elara had survived 10 years of being invisible, had survived the trial, had survived becoming something she never imagined. She could survive this too. She would survive this. Because the throne didn't make mistakes, and neither did she. Not anymore. Far below, in the heart of the castle, the bone throne sat in darkness, silent, satisfied. It had chosen well. A servant girl with nothing to lose, a human with the courage to question everything. A Luna who would burn down the old ways and build something better from the ashes. The kingdom was changing. Finally. Painfully. Necessarily. And at the center of it all stood Elara Vance, no longer invisible, no longer powerless, no longer afraid. Just Luna. And that was enough. That was everything. The story of the invisible girl who touched a throne and changed a kingdom didn't end that night. It was just beginning. There would be more battles, more enemies, more impossible choices. But Elara had learned something important. Strength wasn't about being perfect. It was about showing up, about trying, about refusing to quit even when quitting would be easier. She'd been chosen not because she was the best, but because she was exactly what the kingdom needed. Someone who remembered what it meant to be powerless. Someone who would fight for those who couldn't fight for themselves. Someone who proved that worth wasn't about bloodlines or breeding or being born in the right place. It was about what you did with whatever power you had. And Elara Vance, servant girl turned Luna, was just getting started. The wolves howled in the forest, a wild sound, a free sound, a sound that said, the old ways are dying, the new ways are being born. And the invisible girl who became unstoppable was leading the charge.